Okay. Good evening. It is now 6:31. Going to call this meeting to order. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, would you mind leading us in the invocation?
Absolutely. Everyone please stand. Join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this blessed evening, Lord. Thank you that we get to come together as a community and govern and hopefully do what is right for our amazing community, Canyon Lake, Lord. Thank you for everything that we get to do tonight and discuss. Guide us, Lord, and let us be reminded of you and all that we do. And in your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Alyssa, would you mind helping to lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, can we please have roll call?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, we have 2 council members joining us via telephone tonight. Councilmember Dane.
Present.
Councilmember Green.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Welty.
Here.
Mayor Castillo.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report out of closed session?
There is, Mayor, and since we have so many items on there, I'm just going to go down the list. For items A, B, C, and D, we have no reported action. For items E and F, settlement direction was given by consensus. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane.
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. This is, we have a motion and a second to approve the city council agenda. Councilmember Green.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Castillo.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to ceremonial matters. Okay, the first, well, we have Citizens of the Month today, right? We do. Multiple Citizens of the Month, and I'm going to ask our lieutenant to come up and join me for this presentation. Today we have with us quite a few members of our community who were so involved over the last year, right? And I would like you, if you can, to tell our community just what these young community members were doing. Okay.
Feedback. Well, first I have the pleasure of standing in for the director of Cops for Kids in honoring 4 of our Canyon Lake residents for Citizen of the Month. But before I do that, let me explain to you what Cops for Kids is if you do not know. Cops for Kids, it's a nonprofit organization that started back in 1995 by 2 of our deputies at the Lake Oceanar Station. They realized the need for several residents that didn't have anything for Christmas, they didn't have food, they didn't have gifts, and they actually took a donation throughout the station the deputies gave, and they ended up giving food and gifts to these families. Well, years after that, that was over 25 years ago, we've reached out to companies, and it's just grown to where they help over 500 kids a year, and they give up to $20,000 in scholarships now to local residents. So during the holiday season last year, Reese Walsh approached Cops for Kids and asked how she could help and give back to those in need. Reese came up with a campaign that she titled Fill a Stocking, Fill a Heart. She reached out to several of her friends to help her with her idea. That's Jonathan Eads, Jeffrey Eads, and Cohen Simpson. All answered the call and worked throughout the holiday season raising funds for Cops for Kids. They were guided and directed and added by their teacher, Deanna Ars. This group raised over $3,000 to help children in need. They presented the money to Cops for Kids earlier in the year. These funds will be utilized for things like clothing, housing assistance, transportation to school, toys at Christmas time, and scholarships for continuing education, to name just a few of the things. Because of COVID and other scheduling issues, they have been unable to properly recognize this group. Tonight, we would like to honor and thank them publicly for their outstanding efforts. And I have a certificate for each of them.
Why don't you come on up so we can have the community get a good look of these great citizens who work so hard in conjunction with our law enforcement to take care of others. So if you want to call out names, we can do that, and I can grab the city certificate over here.
First, with Reese Walsh.
Good job, Reese. Nice to see you again. Can you look over here? Thank you. Good job.
Jonathan Eads.
Good job. Thank you so much.
Jeffrey Eads.
There you go. Great job.
Cohen Simpson.
Good job. Thank you so much.
And Diane Ars.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we should do a group photo, right?
Group photo.
Yep.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you. So our second ceremonial matter this evening is actually a proclamation. If I can ask Alyssa to come up. I have a proclamation that I would like to read, but if you wouldn't mind coming over here and kind of explaining to the community just what the 9/11 committee does. You can show off our shirts. And then, I would be honored to present this proclamation.
So the 9/11 Committee is our tribute in light in Canyon Lake. It began last year when New York City decided it wasn't going to do a ceremony due to COVID. And they said the electricians couldn't do it. And the electricians came out and said, we've been essential workers since day one. We can do it. And the entire world pushed New York City to make sure that it happened. But before it happened, we came together as a group and decided we were going to do it. So we had an event last year with the 2 spotlights, as you all recall, and we had a ceremony to honor those we lost, those who survived, and those who are still living with illness. I'm sorry. This year is 20 years later, and this year we're having a quieter event. We're asking people to come out at 9:11 p.m. on 9/11. We're having a video. Oleg is here. He's videotaping people who are interested in speaking about what happened to them that day. I happened to have a car accident the day before, September 10th, so I wasn't in Manhattan on September 11th. Some of you may remember last year I spoke about how I was woken up that morning by my now ex-husband, calling me and asking me, where is your friend Michelle? Where does Michelle work? And I'm a New Yorker. I said, on West Street at the World Trade Center. He said, which one? I go, the one on West Street. He said, which building? I go, the one on West Street. It's a stop before my stop. Why are you asking me? And he told me to put the television on. And I dropped to my knees because I didn't know which building. When you work there, you don't count the buildings. You know they exist. I spoke to Michelle today about this ceremony and about this proclamation. And I want to just very quickly tell you what happened to Michelle that day. She was on her way into work. We were both there in 1993 for the first attacks, which were underground. We were both pregnant. We had just announced our pregnancies. we met on the express bus to Manhattan. That day, she was going into the city, and just before she got to the tunnel, the Battery Tunnel, she saw what was going on, and she told the bus driver to stop. And he said, "I can't." She said, "I'm telling you to stop." Now, if I read to you exactly the words she said, you would know she was a true New Yorker also. And he said, "I can't stop the bus." And everybody saw a plane in the World Trade Center. And she said, and her husband's a bus driver. She said, "Okay, bus operator, I'm sick. You need to pull over." And when you tell a bus driver in New York that you're sick, they have to pull over. And he got off the expressway, and everybody got off the bus. So she saved an entire bus load of people from getting through that tunnel. And we spoke about it today because I told her I was going to speak about it tonight. And so I'm very, very honored that I'm chairing this committee this year. And I'm very grateful to our residents. I'm very grateful to the mayor and our council and to our POA and our board for supporting us in what's such an incredibly important memorial. We cannot forget what happened 20 years ago, and we cannot allow it to happen or continue to happen ever again. So thank you, and I'm proud to be here tonight.
Can you just kind of speak about what you're doing to raise money?
Absolutely. I'm very proud of that, too. This year, we decided to donate all funds that we're receiving to the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation. I worked with them in New York. 93 cents of every dollar that they collect goes toward helping first responders build houses, pay mortgages, help families, create ADA-compliant homes. 93% of their money goes directly to the first responders. So we're selling the T-shirts, and we have lawn signs. We don't have many lawn signs left. I think we probably have 3. 5? Tim says 5. And over the weekend, out of my front door, many people came to my front door, we sold over $2,000 that we're donating. And hopefully by the end of this week, we'll be over $2,500. That's what we're hoping for. So if you know anyone who doesn't have a T-shirt yet, they're available at the Pack and Wrap and Post right here. And we have sizes small, medium, large, and extra large, and I have 1 3X left. But all the money is going to Stephen Siller. We're working with them. I speak with them probably twice a week to let them know how things are going, and they're really appreciative of everything that we're doing. We're a sister city to New York, and that's amazing for a small community like ours. So thank you.
Did you want to talk a little bit about the blue lights?
Yes. See, I'm glad I have Casey here. We're encouraging everybody to put up blue lights. One single light makes a difference. A display makes a difference. And post them on our 9/11. We have a Facebook page, 9/11 Tribute in Light, Light the Lake. Post your pictures, because we also have very generous businesses in the community that are giving us gift certificates so that we can present to the most creative light homes that people have lit. So that's what the whole thing is, light the lake in blue. And we're doing an amazing job, and I really am so grateful to the community. And when I post on those pages, I end it with unity in all capitals, because that's what we are, a united community.
Do you mind if I read out loud the names of the committee members?
Absolutely.
Pull that up. Because these people are working very hard.
Very hard.
behind the scenes.
We speak constantly. That phone goes off all night long. Ask Tim. Tim's like, "Don't we have time to go to sleep?"
What did you call it? Personal boundaries? The committee members this year are Tim Cook, Brian Bach, Karen Bevins, Alyssa Askar, Jeannie Hooniran, Judith Bach, Chris Hickok, Craig Spielman, Gilbert Mascaro, Irma Mascaro, myself, and then our Oleg.
Oleg's doing our videos. He's generous enough to not charge us. He's going to put them all together. He's taking videos of various people in various places, and they will be played. We'll have it on a YouTube channel, and they'll be played on probably all of the Canyon Lake pages. Right before 9/11, when we asked you to come out, with a flashlight preferably, because I don't want to be responsible for the next wildfire, just to take a moment of silence for those that we're honoring.
So I have here from the City of Canyon Lake a proclamation memorializing the 20th anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, the American people endured with courage and heroism the deadliest terror attack in the history of the United States, where 2,977 innocent Americans lost their lives in New York, Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Whereas in response to this tragedy, firefighters, police officers, emergency medical technicians, physicians, nurses, military personnel, and other first responders immediately and without concern for their own well-being rose to service in a heroic attempt to protect the lives of those at risk, consequently saving thousands. And whereas the passengers and crew of United 93 fought back against Al-Qaeda hijackers and sacrificed their own lives to save countless others. And whereas the government of the United States responded to this attack by seeking out the leaders of terrorist organizations and their collaborators, thousands of Americans enlisted to protect their country from further harm, and this campaign led to the capture and elimination of terror leaders. And whereas on May 1st, 2011, members of Navy SEAL Team 6 eliminated the leader of Al-Qaeda and mastermind of the September 11th attacks. And whereas on September 11th, 2021, and on the days leading up to this day, citizens of the City of Canyon Lake are asked to remember the lives that were lost, honor the heroic actions taken by our first responders, and thank the members of our military for their continued service and sacrifice. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, proclaims September 11th a day of remembrance in the City of Canyon Lake and calls upon residents to honor the lives of those lost. Regardless of world events, Canyon Lakers will never forget the events of that fateful day. My glasses are fogging.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
All right. Community reports. We have our Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District update from Vice President Darcy Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Castillo, councilmen, staff. I'm going to keep this brief because I know you have a very robust agenda for this evening. I wanted to thank the city manager, the interim fire chief, and the council members and staff that attended our orientation, and hopefully that they got some information they could take back, have a better understanding of how the district works, our assets, and what some of the things we're facing. I also wanted to mention that we appointed Chance Edmondson as a replacement for the vacancy in Division 3. Chance is very well known in Lake Elsinore, Wildemore, Murrieta area. He is a businessman, a general contractor, past president of Rotary, Boys and Girls Club, Lake Elsinore Chamber, so it's really nice to have somebody that's very involved in the community and represents this division quite well already. I'm not going to talk about the drought. I'll save that for next month because I don't think it's going anywhere. But I am going to encourage Canyon Lake residents to please stop overwatering. That's all I'm asking. Just be more efficient. If you need help, we have people that can help you work an app, show you how to do it, monitor your own water usage. It's very important. The sewer rehab that is planned will actually probably start in October. So if you're in on San Joaquin West and some other areas, you will have been notified individually. And if you have any questions, you can call the Water District. And I think that's all I have for this evening. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
I don't. Anyone on the line with a question? Thank you.
No. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Darcy. Vice President Burke. Okay. Canyon Lake Property Owners Association update from President Commission. Welcome.
Joe works better. Thank you. Thank you. And Madam Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. The POA has got an awful lot going on. Most of you know the large dog park is just opened, and it looks great, and a lot of the comments we've gotten so far have been really positive. So we haven't had a ribbon cutting ceremony because there's a couple of benches still due to come in. We'll have that in the fall when all the parts are there. Our first concert in the lodge was last week, and it's been a year and a half since we've had any concerts, and I understand it was sold out. It was a great crowd and very positive. So we're looking to have many more of those. Sierra Park, the park development and the pump track project is moving forward, and that's a real benefit. It's due to a lot of hard work from our staff and our management, who has worked very diligently to value engineer the project. Most of you know the bids came in higher than our budget allowed, so we had to work on that, and that's in progress, and initial reports are very positive. We have some shade structures that are going to go into Sierra Park, Indian Beach. That'll happen this fall. Our campground bathrooms, the RFP is going to be going out, so that's going to happen. And then Roadrunner bathroom is scheduled to start the first week of October. So there is a lot going on in Canyon Lake. A couple of the community events, Maui Sunday, September 5th, this Sunday. Encourage the family to come out. There'll be kids' activities and Hawaiian food and dancers, and it's going from 4 to 8 o'clock on September 5th. Our first ever community garage sale, September 25th and 6th. This is something that we haven't done before. We're waiving all the fees for garage sales for people on that day. We ask them to call the POA, register their address. It'll be published in a statement that can go out to the members and anybody that's interested. So it's going to be a weekend garage sale for the community.
I'm sorry, what dates were those again?
That was September 25th and 6th.
Okay, thank you.
Car show's back. Gets a smile. Yeah, that's a big event that we missed last year, and it's coming October 2nd. And it starts at 9 o'clock, so we encourage you to come early. The lodge will be open for breakfast, and there's going to be hundreds of beautiful vintage cars, so it's quite an enjoyment. I look forward to it every year, if we didn't have the club championship on the same day. So a little conflict there. And the City Golf Championship is October 2nd and 3rd, and we got tee time starting at 7:30 on both days. It's a flighted event. We encourage anybody who's interested in golf at any level to come out and sign up. We hope to get as many as we can out there. We're also inviting people from outside Canyon Lake because it's a city championship. We want to get the best golfer and crown the best golfer for the area. We also have the Battle of the Cities, which is a brainchild of our Councilman Green, and that will be happening again. And I just found out tonight we're going to have a lot of the same teams back competing, looking for the trophy that you guys are holding. So, and with that, we are having a separate scramble event with some of the vendors that and support groups that support the city, the POA and the Water District for two that we know of, and hopefully some other groups that will come out for a scramble event. So there's golf for anybody at any level. So if you're interested, you can call the Pro Shop or go to the POA website. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
I don't. Does anyone else?
Madam Mayor, if I may, thank you, Mr. President. We have another director here as well, Mr. Cook. I just want to relay what I'm hearing in the community, and it's just applauds all around because people are so excited that there's so much to do in Canyon Lake. And while other communities, their citizens might be fleeing, ours are coming here and participating, and it's just been such a refreshing time. So I just want to say kudos to you both and the rest of the board on all the hard work that you're doing, making these events come forward, making them safe, and it's just a great time to be in Canyon Lake. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for those words, and it is a great time. agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have next our chamber update by President Jeannie Odell. Hi, Jeannie.
Good evening, council members, city staff. How is everybody doing?
Good.
You got your gummy worms, I see. Well, between the POA and the chamber, we certainly are going to have a lot of events to be keeping people busy. So we did have our paint and sip last week, and thanks to the hard work of our director of member events, Joseph DeCaspris, we had new members, potential members, and long-term members attending our event. Fun was had by all, as you could tell from some of the paintings that we did. Next Thursday, September 9th, we have our coffee with the interim fire chief and our city manager to kind of answer questions from to our business members as to the impact of the fire department, the EMS program, and the code enforcement program on our member businesses. We will have a storm game on September 16th, and we encourage everybody to attend. You can go onto our website and order your tickets. And that's being put together by our Director of Community Events, Sonia Kent. We also would like everybody to save the date for October 23rd. The Parade of Frights is back. We just got our approval through the Merchant Owners Association, and we'll be walking our application into the city next week. So I know you're closed Monday, but I'll be there bright and early on Tuesday. So we do have that coming up on October 23rd, and then we're going to have some more events that I'll talk to you about next time I show up. We are working on a couple of projects right now. We're working on a new Business of the Month, Business of the Year, and under the leadership of our ambassadors, Donna Ritchie and Brenda Lees, we're reestablishing the program, putting together criteria, et cetera. So you'll start seeing some announcements within the next couple months of our Business of the Month, which will then lead up to our Business of the Year. We are also working on our sponsorship and donation program under the leadership of our Director of Sponsorships, Dolores Badillo. She was on the chamber board several years ago, and we were lucky enough to get her to come back. So she's going to be putting that program together for us. And then we have been lucky to get new members every month. I think you see that on our social media, that we're posting new members, and that's thanks to the hard work of our Director of Membership, Kelly Welty. I do want to also just point out our social media is blowing up, as I think a lot of you have seen as well, and that's due to the hard work of our Director of Communications, Christina Rasband. And we do issue newsletters now twice a month, so I encourage everybody to check your spam in case you're not seeing it. So I know who reads them and I know who doesn't, and I won't put anybody on the spot here. But that's our report for tonight. Any questions?
No?
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so on to public safety update. We have our Lieutenant Rails. Welcome back.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and staff. I have 2 months' worth of stats to provide to you. We'll start with July. During the month of July, deputies at Canyon Lake responded to 434 calls for service. That's up 40 calls from June, which was 394. During the month of July, there were 8 Part 1 crimes reported in the city of Canyon Lake. 4 of those were aggravated assaults, 3 were thefts, and 1 motor vehicle theft. In addition, deputies made 0 public intoxication arrests, wrote 2 traffic citations, made 1 DUI arrest, and investigated 5 traffic collisions. Sad to say that 2 of those traffic collisions were fatal accidents. Overall, 12 arrests were made by deputies in the city of Canyon Lake, 7 for outstanding warrants, 2 for drugs, and then a couple of other minor arrests. That covers July. Now for August, deputies responded to 354 calls for service, and that's reduced 80 calls from 434 the month prior. There were 7 Part 1 crimes. You had 1 aggravated assault, 1 burglary, 3 thefts, and 2 motor vehicle thefts. 0 public intoxication arrests again. 2 traffic citations were written, 2 DUI arrests were made, and 4 traffic collisions were investigated. And overall, there were 17 arrests made, 9 for outstanding warrants, 2 for drugs, 1 for a weapons violation, and then a couple other minor violations. That covers the stats. And I also provided you with our response times, gives you the total yearly average. I'll just give that every month, that way you can keep track of it. The main ones we look at is Priority 1 crimes and Priority 2 crimes, which is our top ones. As you can see in July, it went up from June. Most of that is because of calls for service. July was a little busier. Went back down to a little over 5 minutes in August for priority ones. But that just gives you an average and kind of see where we're trending with that.
Okay.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I did kind of want to just touch base with you. We had a great meeting with myself, the city manager, city staff, city attorney on restitution and cost recovery.
Yes.
The finance committee was made aware of some of that, but I know that Councilmember Green has a big interest in cost recovery. And so if you could just kind of give a synopsis real quick so that he has the benefit of hearing the wonderful news that I heard the other day.
Well, the state provides money back to cities for specific things related to cert kits that can be done, which are sexual assault kits, money that can be returned from that. Varies from domestic violence incidents and how much time we spend on that. And that's through the state mandated. There's various other things, even RIPA, where we have to report every stop. There's certain things that can come back to the city and from the state. In addition, from restitution to DUI drivers and DUI traffic collisions, we can give documents to the district attorney's office, and when the case is filed, we request restitution back to the city for all of those costs. So I'm working on that right now and gathering all the information. I can go back right now to DUIs and DUI-TCs that aren't adjudicated as of yet. So I'm looking at those now, and I'm going to present those this next week.
Now, would all the costs that go with the DUI, such as the blood draw, and all that, would all be part of that cost recovery?
I believe that where the DUIs, it's the blood draws. Where most of the money comes back is DUI-TCs.
Okay. Thank you. Great news.
Great news. So potentially that could be another topic that we talk about going forward when the lieutenant gives his updates, if we are actually being successful in that cost recovery. I think the community would probably like to know that we're not charging them for using their money. Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that.
Appreciate you supplying the time, too. Would it be fair to say that since we made the adjustment from the Paris station to the Lake Elsinore station, that times have decreased? I think it was, 2020 when we made that change?
Yes.
The end of 20? Was it the middle?
July of 2020.
Okay, good to know. So, thank you for providing this, appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sure. Can I ask a question? Does all the substations, do they provide their same stats as you're doing?
All of the, yeah, well, within Lake Elsinore Station,
No, let's say the Paris station. Do they do response times?
most do, yes.
Most do.
I know
Okay.
I provide it to every city when I represent. I
Yeah.
would provide those response times.
Okay, we appreciate it, because when those guys, when they were in, response times weren't so much documented like these are. That's very helpful, and so thank you.
Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, and sometimes if they are up, there's a reason for it. There's either one or two calls where
Sure.
something happened and it brought it up, but I can also provide that.
That's great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Okay, we do have fire stats. Do we have anyone on the line from fire?
Unfortunately not. Chief Jeff Roberts was going to be here with us tonight, but he got called out to an emergency situation. So unfortunately, he's not here, but they did provide statistics for the last 2 months.
Okay, and we have received copies of those.
Yes.
Okay, next is Code Enforcement Senior Code Officer Ruby Manzano. Hi, Ruby.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I will be providing you with a report from the months of July and August. We've had a total of 20 administrative public nuisance. 16 of those have been resolved, and 4 of those we are currently working to resolve. BLM, no changes there, as you can see. We still have an increase, not during the week, more weekends. 8 citations were issued. And we've been having our BLM sign continuously vandalized, graffitied. It's almost every week. We have to go out there, clean it up. The following week, it's back again. So that's kind of been a nuisance for us lately. We have 2 new short-term rentals that we are currently dealing with, and we are trying to actively monitor those as much as we possibly can. 28 residential registrations. Inspections have been conducted. 6 new ones have came in and submitted applications. And we have conducted a total of 10 fire inspections and 3 re-inspections. And that is it.
Any questions from council?
I just want to, applaud our code enforcement. I want to let the council know I've received several calls in regards to the short-term rentals that she's talking about, and they jumped all over it. And this is for anyone who's listening to this meeting. Please contact either your council members or obviously code enforcement, and we're trying to handle the situation. Obviously, it's a community effort. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so responsive and all over it. So
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Public comments. Madam Clerk, can you please read the public comment statement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the city, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is asked to complete a speaker request form available on the back counter. The completed form is to be submitted to the City Clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. The City Council has adopted a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you're commenting on an agenda item, your comments will be heard at the time that particular item is scheduled on the agenda. Please note that if you're addressing the City Council on items not on the agenda, the Brown Act does not allow discussion of such items. Therefore, the City Council may only do the following: refer the matter to staff, ask for additional information or request a report back, or give a very limited factual response. Members of the public may still submit their comment electronically by sending an email with their comment to publiccomment@canyonlakeca.gov. Comments submitted electronically will be provided to the City Council and included in the official record, but will not be read aloud during the meeting. We have no comments.
Okay. Can you please read the consent calendar statement?
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous City Council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member may request that an item be removed for further discussion. Staff recommends approval of all items.
Okay. Is there any council member that would like a consent calendar item pulled? Hearing none, can I get a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We are now moving on to public hearing. Number 6 on the agenda is the housing element. Going to open the public hearing at 7:09. So I believe there is a staff presentation.
Mayor and members of the council, yes, there is a staff presentation. Good evening. This is kind of an annual item lately for the City Council. The last few years, we've been before you with an updated housing element. 2019, last year with a midterm update, and then a new housing element this year that the purpose of tonight's meeting is to transmit it to the State Housing and Community Development Department for their review and comment back, and then it'll come back to you for formal action. I set up a public hearing this evening simply to allow any additional input if people wanted to provide that. The state has requested that there be public input. It's not required at this point. If we don't receive any input this evening, that's fine. It'll go to the state and again come back to you for a public hearing. The housing element is one of 7 mandatory elements in state law, and it's one that occurs periodically, and also your next agenda item has to do with the fact that when a housing element's updated, sometimes other actions have to be taken as well. In very general terms, the programs that are in the element that really are the gist of actions that we would take, almost half of them are undertaken by the county at this point in time. The other ones, staff will undertake with some actions such as updating the zoning ordinance, the specific plan, which you have seen, and a draft, which came to me. It's in a big binder, but it's not that big, that you've seen a presentation on for the town center. We'll be looking at that and coming back to you. The whole focus, again, of those actions is to ensure adequate affordability of housing and how we meet those requirements. I wanted to make mention of just a few items in the housing element. There's a few, let me get rid of this one. A few corrections. Wanted to make mention of, on page 2-3, we've got kind of a mixing and matching of vacant lot totals, and we're going to work with the consultant to change that listing. The 126 near the bottom of the page, that is correct for a particular category. That is not correct for the total. It should say 221. There's a typo on page 2-13 in reference to a piece of legislation as AB 234, should be SB.
SB,
234.
Senate bill? Okay.
And then also, we have an error in page C-10. Unfortunately, when you have a consultant who's doing multiple jurisdictions, the cut and paste sometimes doesn't always work the best. And I overlooked it as well. So there's a Desert Hot Springs reference. The material in the matrix is correct, except we need to update the reference to Fit Boot Camp, which obviously is not there any longer, but was at the time that this was done. And we also need to note the correct business in the adjoining suite. So those types of things we'll take care of. We have 120 days after the October 15th date to take final action. State HCD has 60 days. SCAG has requested the elements to be turned in early because they're worried that HCD is going to be inundated with these documents and that they're going to need more time in order to try and meet their requirements. So ours is going to be turned in this month very shortly, so we will help in that. So if there's any questions, be happy to respond. I prepared an initial study to review or to evaluate the potential impact of the document, and that has been posted, and again, action won't be taken until it comes back to you for final acceptance.
Mike, when do you anticipate that being?
Well, some of it depends on state HCD's response and our ability to get it back on the agenda, considering things always seem to happen at the holiday time. So November, December, and early January have conflicts there. But it would happen, say, no later than the first council meeting in January.
Okay.
Was that your question?
No, I have a couple of questions, Jim.
Okay.
This housing element, will that suffice for HCD's requirement they had on us for lack of our plan being in? And with that went a possibility of $160,000 that would be granted to us if this was in compliance. Is that still in effect?
Well, the first part is we took care of the deficiency in the last cycle by having that midterm document we undertook last year. So now we're back into the regular cycle.
Okay.
So we are fully up to speed. We are complying with, or at least in our view, attempting to comply with the requirements for this particular cycle. The additional SB2 funds, those are paying for the preparation of the document.
Okay, that's that question. I noticed in the document, I read a couple things, and just for clarification, I probably know the answer, but you're the expert. One, it says that the City of Canyon Lake is not eligible for HCD or HUD funds?
Well, for things such as CDBG funding.
Well, CBDG is another one we get, what, 18,000 a year for CBD, community block grant?
I don't know the dollar amount.
Yeah, so we do get some of the community block grant funding, but we don't get any HUD funding for housing elements or anything, do we? Because Candy Lake is not eligible.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
A lot of the programs are set up in which we deal with county agencies, and in part because of our size. So, for example, with the CDBG funding, it's administered by the county because of our population.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody at home reading this, that's why.
Okay.
Anything from Councilmember Dane or Welty, anything to ask?
I'm good, thank you. I don't either.
Okay. So, testimony by proponents? No? Testimony by opponents? No. Okay, we are going to close this public hearing now at 7:17. Any further discussion by City Council? Hearing none, action by City Council, I would need a motion and a second to direct staff to forward this material to State Housing and Community Development for their review and comment.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, so we are moving on to business items. Number 7 is adoption.
Madam Mayor, may I request something before we begin?
Certainly.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and also Councilman Green, if you don't mind. Would you be willing to have Chief come up and join us? Obviously, most of our agenda items this evening involve the Chief, and it'd be nice to have him up here having the discussion with us, if that's okay with you.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Does that work for you, Madam Mayor?
Okay.
If need be, he can use my microphone if Mike doesn't have another one for this one right here. But we have plenty of space up here, so if you don't mind, Chief, join us up here.
It would appear you have been invited. All right.
You have officially been promoted.
Are you just going to put them, okay. Huh? All right. Okay. So we are on item number 7, adoption and resolution of number 2021-38, approving a budget adjustment for the preparation of the city's general plan safety element. So, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor, members of the council, and Chief. So as I mentioned during the last presentation, once you update the housing element, you're then mandated to make modifications or necessary updates to your safety element. We had a budget item set up in last year's budget for $50,000. We had gone through requests for proposals, received that, attempted to negotiate with one particular consultant. We brought the item to the council several times. We've since selected and signed an agreement with a particular consultant, but we don't have any funding this year to pay them. We paid out nothing last year. So the request this evening is to allocate funds for this fiscal year for that particular action. The budget last year was $50,000. The request this year is $45,000. The actual amount is $44,420, the agreement that's been signed.
Okay. Any council members have questions?
No.
Councilmember Dane or Welty? Any questions?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green, you?
Thank you.
The 50,000 that wasn't used last year, that's a carryover? Carryover?
I'm sorry, yes. 50,000 was allocated last year. We didn't need to spend it. Well, we didn't get around to spending it last year. And
So did it go back into the general fund, or was it?
It was never spent.
Oh, so-
And so, because it's a new fiscal year, money doesn't really carry over that way. It has to be reallocated each fiscal year.
Okay.
And so, because of the choice of consultant that the council made, the cost was lower than what was originally anticipated and budgeted for. So we don't need the whole 50,000. We're recommending 45,000 as an approved budget. But we need the budget adjustment because we need to reallocate the funding for this year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Is there any public comment card on this item?
Nothing on this item, ma'am.
Okay. If that is it, we would need a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2021-38.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2021-38.
You forgot Councilman Latendresse. Yeah.
All right. We're moving on to business item number 8, discussion on possible amendments to section 9.25.030 subsection A of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code pertaining to commercial window signage. City Manager?
Yeah, I would like to have Ruben Manzano give the presentation on this item. Thank you.
Welcome
Good
back.
evening again. So as council is aware, as of June 15, code enforcement was able to get back to in-person inspections. As we conducted our fire inspections, we came across a couple of businesses that were not in compliance with the current sign ordinance, particularly section 9.25030A, which is the window signage. And although this section exempts business owners from obtaining a permit, it does state the following. Window signs which are in keeping with the purpose and intent of this chapter that are painted or similarly applied directly to the window with non-washable or washable material are permitted so long as the total sign area does not exceed 25% of the total frontage glass area. This prompted us to conduct an exterior inspection of all the businesses in the commercial area, the Canyon Fitness location, and Eastport. And we found that over 20 of these businesses are not in compliance. And if you look at the screen to your left, this is kind of a visual of what we came across. And as you can see, this exceeds the coverage allowed. So it's way over the 25%. We definitely don't want to discourage our business owners from advertising their business. And I know that council has expressed desire in maintaining a business-friendly approach. So before code enforcement takes any action on this item, we found it prudent to bring this item before you and for your discussion and recommendation on how to move forward with this.
Thank you. Have we, Mayor? Hi, Ruby.
Hi.
Good job. Have we had any public complaints on the, people complaining about the signage or anything that would cue us that we were having a problem other than our ordinance? Do we have public complaints?
We have, yes.
You have?
We have.
Okay. How many of those do we have?
I would say a few. I think the issue that we're having is that more business owners are seeing some of these other business owners put up these or cover completely their windows. And so then they go ahead and do it because, well, it's one of those things, well, they're doing it, so we're going to do it too.
Are businesses aware of this ordinance that they can only use 25% of their glass to for signage?
We initially, I won't say we, but when they initially go over to the counter for their business license, the business license department does provide them with this information regarding the business signage. Whether or not they read it or comprehend it, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So are you saying that it's really business owners complaining about other business owners, or are people who are visiting the town center actually complaining?
No, it's business owners complaining about other business owners, but as well as us going out there as we're doing these inspections, we're coming across this, and we thought that it might be a good item to address to council.
Have you had any actual non-business owner complaints?
No.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I think that's the key point. If it's not driven by our citizens, this is a council that is pro-business, as you had mentioned. I think that if anything, it's something to keep our eye on, but definitely not get in the way of. I mean, I look at these examples that you've provided, and I know how expensive that is to put those up. You know, the Daisy one, it looks awesome. It doesn't look trashy, it looks like advertisement, and I can understand why the other businesses would complain, because it's kind of a, it's obviously allows them to have a bigger spot for their window that they're looking at. But I think being the business pro community that we are, I would hate to over-regulate on advertisement unless it's a problem from actual community members. So for me, I would love to hear from my colleagues on this, if they want to look at, a grandfather clause, or if they want to look at, removing the 20%, if they want to look at something that continues us to be pro-business, to allow our business owners to advertise without, I don't want to use the word trashy, but maintaining a cleanliness and a neatness that they clearly have in doing the advertisement that they have here. But for me, I'm pro-business through and through, and I think this is just part of being in business. If I had a storefront like this, I would maximize all the real estate space that I have to advertise for my business. So for me, I would like to see us change it to be even more pro-business if we can, unless you think, we'll take, you're on the streets, you're talking to the businesses, if you think it's going to create more of a problem or not. But I'm always a big proponent of having government out of the way, so.
My concern is that this might be viewed by some as a selective use of our code, because we've got so many that are out of compliance. And I think that from the business standpoint, unless the sign is offensive, or obviously there could be other reasons, poor judgment or whatever, I think that in that case, it probably require action. But I think in this case, would be really deemed as being really restrictive. And I think we're trying to do everything we can to promote business and to promote Canyon Lake. So I think unless it's not if it's distasteful or profanity or any content that would be inappropriate for our community, I think those would be signs that should be taken down. But I think in the examples that we have here, these are thriving businesses, and I think if we pull these out, we're going to have to do them all. So I think that was going to maybe create a little bit of, backlash. So I think at this point, maybe we ought to visit this, and the restrictiveness of it should be probably rewritten. And there should be some teeth so that we can take care of signs that we don't want. But I think since we've already got this out of the bag, we got so many businesses out of compliance, we'd really have a pushback on our community, which I would expect them to do. So that's my view.
I have two comments. First comment is just thank you to the businesses who follow the rules. The second comment is I think code enforcement has more important things to do. So I don't like this ordinance. Councilmember Dane or Councilmember Welty, do you have anything to add?
This is Councilman Welty. I'd like to get the chamber's input with, impact on this. Does the chamber think as a whole that they all should be able to do the signs, or does the chamber or the business community feel like there should be some level of balance to all this. The other is I'm concerned that maybe we should have a look at some of these enlarged signs before they go up. I hate to have restrictions, but at some point, we hate to have them take them down. Maybe they need to come in ahead of time. So I guess I would say I would like the staff to look at this and come back with some recommendations, but I would like them to somewhat poll the business community, maybe through the chamber, to come back with recommendations.
Councilmember Dane, do you have anything to add or questions?
I do. I have a question and a comment. My question is about the intent of this ordinance. Is it a safety reason to not have more than 25% covered? That's my question.
Well, in looking into when this ordinance was adopted and the purpose and intent for it, yes, part of it is aesthetics and security.
Okay. And then my comment, based on the main Daisy Dukes and the other one, I know that as far as sun-facing buildings in the afternoon, and I know both of those are on that same side where they get the hot afternoon sun, I wonder if part of that is to help keep the businesses cool with those screens.
Yeah.
I think that's something to consider as well.
The city attorney's been raising his hand and has been ignored, but now you can speak.
That's fine. This is the council's meeting. Obviously, you guys should have the discussion you need. I really hate being the wet blanket city attorney, but here we go. One of the concerns I have with kind of the discussion we're having is that we are talking about the content of the signs themselves. We're talking about reviewing the signs for their content, for their aesthetics before they go up. Since our ordinance was passed, there has been additional Supreme Court precedent on the First Amendment implications of city regulation of signs. So you'll notice our ordinance doesn't talk about the content of the signs, it talks about the size of the signs, right? So it's a time, place, manner restriction on that First Amendment activity, as opposed to, is this a good-looking sign or is it not? I completely understand that desire, but that desire, when used incorrectly by the government, can be used to stifle constitutionally protected speech. So I just want to make sure that we're managing expectations as this goes to staff, and they talk with the chamber, talk with the business community, and you get something that comes back. If the council wants to say, look, you know what, that's your business. If you want to have the whole thing covered in a sign, that's fine. I just want to make sure that your expectations are managed on our ability to restrict the aesthetics or the content of those signs. Our ability in that regard is severely limited.
We're just talking about size, right?
Just size. Right now you have a 25% cap, which is fairly standard. There's safety concerns, there's aesthetic concerns that are usually cited for that. If your sense is that 100% works, causes shade, it's good for business, that's perfectly your prerogative. But what I don't want to happen is the council says, okay, 100% free for all, use your windows, and then someone comes up with a sign and it looks ugly, right? It looks terrible. And there's a public outcry about this horrible sign, and we want to do something about it. And at that point, I tell you, look, the First Amendment protects ugly signs, right? So I just want that to be sort of part of the conversation when you guys are thinking about, we're probably not going to be able to do a lot of the regulation of the content of the sign. Now, these are commercial signs, so we do have some additional abilities, and I will certainly give advice to staff and whatever ad hoc committee reviews this, what those limits are, but I just want to make sure you were aware of that.
Madam Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much for clearing that up, Mr. City Attorney. I will agree with our Madam Mayor in regards to spending time on this. I'll just make a suggestion that we do away with the 25% limitation, and we allow our businesses to do what they believe best with their real estate space. And I think our councilwoman made a very good point in regards to some of the sizes actually needed to protect from the sun. I think that's a valid point, and I think they've done it very classy, especially the examples that we have here in front of us. So for me, I'll make a motion that we do away with the 25%, and we allow our businesses to be business owners that they are and make the business decisions that we expect them to make as business owners in our town center.
So that was a motion. Is there a second?
Could I clarify the motion, please? Or ask for clarification? Is the motion to direct staff to go back and craft ordinance language that does away with the percentage requirement and allows for 100% coverage, and bring that back to a future council meeting for action?
That would be my motion.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Excuse me, I'll second that. But, so I'm not totally off base, this is just a piece of our sign ordinances, aren't they? Because there are other pieces for portable signs, banners.
Correct.
Okay. This is all we're referring to is the window signage.
Correct.
And I'll second that. Okay, thank you.
So there is a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to bring back an ordinance.
We are moving right along. We are on item number 9, which is an agreement. We are looking regarding an adoption of resolution number 2021-39, authorizing execution of an agreement with the Public Agency Retirement Services, also known as PARS, to provide a defined contribution retirement plan for eligible employees. And it looks like we have Terry Shea. Hello.
Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor, members, City Council, City staff. You are correct with the fire department starting. As part of that, we decided that we'd need some sort of plan. So in 1990, Congress enacted the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, which requires, which mandates that all public employees who are not members of their employer's existing retirement system be covered by Social Security or an alternate plan. Our city does not participate in Social Security, and per our contract with PERS, our public safety can't either. So as part of the initial plan to start the fire department, they decided that a different plan, like a defined contribution plan, would be the way to go. So we currently participate in CalPERS for our full-time employees and our part-time employees that work more than 1,000 hours. The ones that work less than 1,000 hours, we have nationwide, which is a deferred comp plan. The employees themselves contribute. There's nothing contributed from the city side. We do not participate in Social Security, and we're not eligible, which I said. And the law provides for participating in a qualifying alternate retirement program in lieu of Social Security, the plan must provide for a contribution of at least 7.5%. That can be made up of the employer and the employee. But for ours, we're going to put 7.5 in for the fire department, and then the employee is going to contribute 7.5. So it'll be 15% per year. Any questions on the plan? And it is a 401A plan. I'm sorry for not putting that in this part. So I'm like reading it and go, forgot the 401A. So effective, well, PARS is the third largest multiple employer public retirement system in California with over 600 member agencies representing over 375,000 public employees. They have several nearby agencies, including Palm Springs Aerial Tramway, Desert Recreation, and the Placentia Library. So effective December 1, 2021, the city will contribute 7.5% of salary on behalf of each eligible employee. Each eligible employee will also be required to contribute 7.5% of their salary. That will be a tax-deferred deduction for the employee. I have Dennis Yu on the line. If anybody has any questions, he works for PARS. So if anybody has any questions, PARS will be the trust administrator, They use U.S. Bank, where the funds are held, and they use John Hancock Investment Services. And you have the attachments in the back. The 7.5% the city is contributing is included in the budget from December 1 through June, and that's included in the original budget. I think at the beginning, the fees, since there won't be a lot of money in there, the city will pay the fees until the plan gets going, and those are probably less than $1,000 per year. So, any questions on the plan?
Before questions, I'd just like to add one thing from staff's perspective. This is a big deal and it's exciting because this is really one of the main reasons we're able to start a fire department and save money over what we've been paying the county for CAL FIRE services. We have a really unique contract with CalPERS. City employees are CalPERS members. Our agreement with CalPERS has not only an exemption for public safety, but an exclusion for public safety. So we couldn't even, when we started a fire department, even if we wanted our fire department personnel to be in CalPERS, under our current agreement, we couldn't do it. We'd have to go back and renegotiate that CalPERS agreement to get rid of that exclusion. And so that exclusion gives us this opportunity to still offer a very good retirement plan that will serve our employees very well. It is a defined contribution plan instead of a defined benefit plan. So I think that that's important to note that while we will be paying in, as will the employee on the front end, it carries no long-term liability for the city, right? There's no long-term commitment for the city. It's a 401k plan. So this is huge. It's a big deal. And just wanted to add those comments.
Question?
Yes.
Is this mandatory?
Yes.
No opt-out?
You cannot opt out, no.
Okay. So 100% involvement?
Yes. We legally have to provide, and employees have to participate in a retirement plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what happens if somebody comes along and says they want Social Security?
We don't offer Social
Condition
Security.
of employment. You'll have to be in PARS.
You have to be in PARS.
Okay.
Yeah, we do not participate in Social Security, so.
No, I'm just thinking of some employee coming along and I'm posing it just so.
Just in case.
We have the answer. It's mandatory, no opt-out.
Right.
Well, you don't have a job. That's an opt-out. Okay.
Any other questions from council?
This is Dale, Councilman Welty. Just comment is I'm glad we're going to pay our costs as we go. We're not going to develop any long-term debt on this. So we're going to pay probably on a quarterly basis and we're done. So that's a great thing. And we do offer a 401k, some sort of matching for our safety employees.
Yes, Councilman, we offer currently we offer a 457B plan through Nationwide for employees who wish to participate. We will be offering a 457B plan to the fire personnel too. It will be the same plan that the employees look at. At a future meeting, you will be seeing we're making some changes to how we offer that plan that will be an improvement for both the city and for employees. But that will be the same across the board for fire department employees and other city employees that have an option to participate in the 457B. And there is a city match for employees who I believe have worked for the city full-time for at least 2 years. Then a match kicks in. And the more years you work for the city, the higher that match goes. And I think it tops out at 6% of salary. Yeah.
And that will be available for all employees,
Yes.
including fires.
Do we offer deferred comp?
That is the 401A plan. That's basically.
The 457B is deferred.
457B,
Deferred comp,
yes.
okay.
Right. And that plan is already in place, but like I said, we're going to
Okay.
restructure it. So.
Any other questions?
I do have,
Okay.
I have one. Is there any concern that this may be a barrier to employment for people, or is this pretty standard across other departments?
Well, it's unique. There are other departments that have PARS. PARS is huge. They service a lot of public entities. It's not as common for public employees as CalPERS is. I would say for some potential applicants, it would be deterrent. For others, it's a big plus. So if you are, for example, a recent CalPERS retiree, you cannot go work for a CalPERS agency full-time and still receive your CalPERS retirement benefits. So if you are a CalPERS retiree, you could now come to work for the city of Canyon Lake because you'll be under PARS, not PERS, and it won't affect your retirement. So for some employees, potential employees, I think it'll help with recruitment. It just depends on the circumstance of the individual.
Did that answer your question, Councilmember Dane?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
No comments.
Okay, so I need a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2021-39.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2021-39.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you for
Thanks, Terry.
signing on. Okay, so we are
No
now
problem.
on business item number 10, which is an ordinance, the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 210, an ordinance of the City of Council of the City of Canyon Lake, adding chapter 6.02 to the Canyon Lake Municipal Code regarding organic waste disposal reduction. City Manager.
Yes, I think I'd like to have our city attorney give the presentation on this item.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council. You'll recall in March of this year, I gave a pretty extensive presentation on the results of SB 1383, which is a state mandate that is attempting to curb greenhouse gas emissions by forcing the city to adopt a organic waste reduction program. The idea is that a lot of the waste that goes into landfills consists of green waste like lawn, grass, trees, as well as food. There's also a side concern that there is a significant amount of people who suffer from hunger in the state, and that we have people, entities such as grocery stores and large restaurants who have a significant amount of food that is perfectly edible, but for market reasons nevertheless gets thrown away. The state, in order to tackle these issues, has decided that they are going to require local agencies adopt ordinances to address this. Those of you who've kept track of all of the changes in the solid waste field will know that this is in a long line of state mandates when it comes to recycling, mandatory commercial recycling, mandatory organics recycling. And the state has realized that if they give cities performance-based goals, that is, we're not going to tell you how to do something, we're just going to tell you we want you to reduce, commercial recycling by a certain percentage. Some cities are incredibly creative with how they interpret that directive, and they may not meet the actual objectives that the legislature had in mind. So this time around, the legislature decided they weren't going to tell us what to do, they were going to tell us how to do it. So what you have in front of you is the model ordinance that was given to us by the state, just like our model landscape efficiency ordinance, other model ordinances that we're required to adopt from time to time. You heard from the city's solid waste franchise hauler, CR&R, back in March that they had already anticipated this issue. They have already built many of the facilities that are going to be required to deal with this issue. So the city of Canyon Lake is actually in a very good position to address the state's concern, and actually through our relationship and our regional relationships, we were actually already on top of this before the legislature told us to do it. Some of our sister cities in Los Angeles County and Orange County are not so fortunate. They're going to have to come up with ways to recycle organic waste with very limited land available to them to do it. In fact, you may recall back in March, our solid waste franchise described how some of those communities, in order to meet the requirements of this law, which again seeks to curb greenhouse gas emissions, is going to load organic waste on diesel trucks and drive them over the grapevine into the Central Valley where they are going to be recycled. So, one has to wonder, are we actually achieving the goals of the state? I might be editorializing a bit too much. I apologize, Mayor. So what you have before you is you have the model ordinance. I'm going to request that you do first reading on this so that we can have a second reading at the next meeting in October, and 30 days after that it will go into effect. That way we can meet the state's requirement that we have an ordinance on the books by January 1st, 2022. We shouldn't really see a lot of enforcement under this ordinance. Everyone already has the appropriate bins. As far as we know, everyone in Canyon Lake is capable of telling 3 colors from each other and putting the trash in the appropriate bins. There's going to be a lot of paperwork that CR&R is going to have to do on our behalf. So I would expect an amendment to the franchise agreement to come forward in the near future. The city manager and I will certainly be meeting with them so that we can have those requirements outlined in the contract and they can be compensated for doing that additional work. You'll recall CR&R did speak at the June meeting and said that there were no significant rate increases coming this year because of 1383, but that we can expect, because of the incredible regulatory burden that the state is placing on our community, that the rates might have to go up to cover those costs in the future. Just to give you a brief outline of what that is, it's not just reporting on tonnages. They have to do route audits, which means someone follows the trash truck, looks in bins, make sure people are putting the right stuff in the right bins, so that we can tell the state that the people of Canyon Lake are doing a good job on their organic recycling. That is the extent of my report on this ordinance. If you have any questions, I'm available to the council. Thank you, Mayor.
Any questions
yeah.
from council? Are you volunteering to follow the trash truck?
Our gates are not there for a reason. I mean, Mr. City Attorney, thank you for so elegantly putting how wonderful our state continues to over-regulate us, so I appreciate that. If there's not any other questions, I'll move this one along. You got to do public hearing on this one, right? Public reading?
No, it's questions and then it's first reading.
First reading? Move along then.
I just think that there's going to be obviously a fee that goes with this, as CNR&R said. And I do believe there is a question about the color of the bins now, and apparently Alex said that they're probably going to have to upgrade the bins to meet state requirements, and that'll be in probably the next year or the following year because of the coloring. For colorblind people, we'll have to put some kind of marking on them, I guess. But
Yeah, and like I said, the ordinance from the state and the mandates require that we have specific colors, and those bins aren't free.
Sure.
I believe we have 3 bins now.
We do have,
but they want them to be very specific colors.
I think they're changing the color scheme. That's what Alex was kind of referring to. He said, because I mentioned that we do have already the 3 colored based on what goes in from green to you name it, recycle and then trash. But he said the color scheme they're not in compliance with 100%. So I don't know what that means. What I have seen though in the new, some of the new customers is they changed the tops of the bins to whatever color.
Just the lids.
Just the lids.
Yeah, it's the cheaper way to kind of address it. The bodies are all the same color, but
Yes.
the lids are different.
Yeah.
So that's, just so you know, that's in the ordinance, that we have to do that. I expect them to phase that in over time, because I think to do it all at once would be very difficult.
Cost prohibitive.
But like we said, we're going to be having amendments to our franchise agreement. One of the amendments is going to be mandating that the bins be the proper color that the state wants them to be, and we'll go from there. And I know that the color thing is kind of weird, but I just want to tell you, I have seen communities where the recycle bin is gray and the trash bin is blue.
Yep.
And that does actually confuse people. I don't think our bins here confuse people, but
They don't,
I've
but
seen
you're
some
right.
communities that just do it completely backwards.
Right. And I think all of us here have been part of, a time where there was one trash truck that drove by and picked up all the bins, and now we have 3 different trucks creating a nice carbon footprint, collecting individual bins that now are going to be changed colors once again. So to the residents of Canyon Lake, this is not your council's doing. We're just as pissed as you are, so I'll leave it at that.
So does this require a motion?
Wait, first I need to note, Councilmember Dane or Welty, do you have any comments or questions?
As Councilman
I do
Walton,
not.
Steve, I think you did a great job addressing the issues of the additional costs, which will be coming to the city, and some issues of maybe some exuberance on the part of the state in wanting to get into everybody's daily business, but thank you.
Councilmember Dane, anything?
No, nothing from me.
Okay. Are there any public comment cards?
No comments.
Okay, now we would need a motion and a second to approve introduction and first reading of ordinance 210.
Motion?
I'm scared a second. Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Councilmember Green.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Castillo.
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 210, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, adding Chapter 6.02 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code regarding organic waste disposal reduction.
Okay, moving along. This is also an ordinance, introduction and first reading of ordinance 211, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, adding Chapter 14.40 related to obstruction of right-of-way and 14.50 related to solicitation.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to have the city attorney give this presentation as well.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. So this is an issue that was actually referred to my office by the city manager. He had noted that there was significant concerns in the community regarding obstruction of sidewalks by people either sleeping, people leaving personal belongings. I think I myself even observed an individual who had a shopping cart piled high with belongings, and it was blocking the sidewalk on Railroad Canyon Road just a couple weeks ago. That was handled, I think, quickly by city manager and staff. But we are dealing again with an ordinance that we had that worked perfectly fine, but the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in a case, the City of Boise case, made a ruling that affects our ability to enforce what we used to call anti-camping laws. And essentially what they said in that case, the City of Boise had a very simple ordinance that said you can't camp out on public property, okay? You can't set up a tent on a sidewalk or a park. It's intended for people to travel. It's intended for people to recreate. It's not intended to be your residence. And the Ninth Circuit found under the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment that people have a constitutional right to carry out the basic needs of living. One of those is sleeping, and that if someone doesn't own private property, the only place that they can sleep is public property. And so to criminalize that amounted to cruel and unusual punishment, unless the city could show at that moment in time that there were sufficient beds available in a shelter and that the person who was being criminally prosecuted had refused to go. So that puts a pretty big burden on law enforcement. They have to check with the shelters, are there beds? Hey, do you want to go to this bed? Before they cite a person for engaging in this behavior. So what we've done is I had some communications with some colleagues in the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office, a very big City Attorney's Office. If you've been watching the news lately, LA has been dealing with a much more serious version of this issue, and they've been grappling with how to do it constitutionally after the Boise case. They've recently adopted an ordinance that tracks essentially what we're doing here, which is we've gotten rid of the blanket sort of prohibition on the activity, and instead what we have is a set of targeted restrictions. So, for example, we're not saying you can't sleep on a sidewalk, but we're saying you can't sleep on a sidewalk in a way that prevents 48 inches of clearance as you're walking down the sidewalk. Because, one of the things with City Canyon Lake is our sidewalk is part of our accessibility program for our disabled residents. They need to be able to use the sidewalk to travel around the city, and so if someone's blocking it, they can't go in the street. It's too dangerous. There's a couple other prohibitions in there, so driveways, parking lots, within 500 feet of parks, schools, sensitive uses, things like that. And the intent is to narrowly tailor our law so that we are going after specific issues. So like I said, right of access, traffic and public safety. We don't want you sleeping in such a way that you're blocking access for vehicles. We don't want people getting run over. So that's what you see here. My belief is that this would stand up to constitutional muster if it was challenged. But my expectation is that you don't have a lot of that in this community, so I don't see a lot of enforcement as being necessary. But when it is necessary, it'd be nice to have a constitutional ordinance to rely on. The second part of the ordinance is an update to what is called the Solicitation Ordinance or the Aggressive Panhandling Ordinance. Similar issues here. Instead of Eighth Amendment concerns, we have First Amendment concerns. Asking for money has been found by the Supreme Court to be a First Amendment protected activity. There's a lot of religious and charitable organizations that ask for money to support their causes. Political organizations ask for money. And so if we're going to have restrictions on it, they need to be narrowly tailored to a significant government interest. And similar to the obstructing the right-of-way, this relates to traffic. So we don't want people on the medians soliciting that's unsafe. It's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for the traveling public. We don't want them obstructing driveways. We don't want them in parking lots getting run over. So similar restrictions here. And I think the expectation is in the city of Canyon Lake, when we're talking about our public-facing areas, it's very dangerous to be engaging in this activity on Railroad Canyon Road, on the medians, near these driveways. Someone's going to get hurt at some point. And so that's the intent of these, to narrowly tailor them in constitutional ways, but still address the concerns of the community.
Okay. Any council member with questions? Hearing none, are there any public comment cards on this item?
No comments.
I need a motion and a second to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance 211.
Motion.
And is there a second?
There is. Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 211, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, adding Chapter 14.40 related to obstruction of right-of-way and 14.50 related to solicitation.
Okay, thank you. Moving along to item number 12. This is resolutions regarding the Building and Safety Department staffing. I'm super excited about this. Is everyone awake? Okay. City Manager.
This is so exciting, it's hard for me to let Mike Borja give the presentation, but I will anyway.
Okay.
Wake up, Mike. We're going a little too fast. I'm going to try to slow down the meeting.
Whoa.
That's okay. We've been working on this for a long time. Finally, you brought it forth. It's taken you so long.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Tonight, city staff is bringing forward the adoption of resolutions approving the salary schedule, budget adjustment, professional service agreement with the VCA code, MOU with the City of Wildomar for the operations of the city's new building and safety department. So, just a little history. Since the departure that we had from Charles Abbott Associates back in 2018, I think some of you may remember that, abrupt departure, we, the city staff, had to quickly move forward and get an additional services for the department to be able to do the same service that Charles Abbott did for us at that time, and that service was Interwest Consulting Group. Unfortunately, at a higher cost than what we initially wanted to. If you remember, I believe the fees, the percentage of fees from Charles Abbott were about 65, 66%. We went to 95% with Interwest. So since that time, and from the direction that we've gotten from the Finance and Planning Committee, city staff had to come up with a solution to try to reverse that for us and not to give those fees away to consulting groups, but to keep those fees here for us here in the city. Fortunately, we were able to do so. Revenues have exceeded in that department so much to the point where we're now able to have our own staff oversee the department. So what that means, basically, we have now opened our doors. Instead of from 8 to 12, it's going to be from 8 to 5, just like all the other city departments that we have here, which is a huge, huge plus. We have hired a deputy building official / senior building inspector that's going to be overseeing the department, and that person is going to sort of handle the day-to-day operations of the department, do a lot of the plan checks that go along with the department. Some of the higher level stuff will be some of the stuff that we may have to service out, which I'll talk a little bit further, a little bit more about that too. In addition to the deputy building official and the senior building inspector, we are also hiring a building permit technician that's always going to be overseeing the counter, answering phone calls, returning emails, some of the things that have been sort of been lacking with the service that we kind of had with Interwest. So all positive, all good news. It's good to know that we're having our own staff here in place, let alone we're going to be open all day, just like all the other departments. So, so today was actually that start. So today, September 1st, was the opening of the new department. Our agreement with Interwest ended officially today. Yesterday. Mm-hmm. Sorry, yesterday. So we are moving forward. As part of the new staff that we have on board, and part of what's in the other resolutions that you see there too, we're also, because of the new staff that's in there, we have to adopt a salary and wage schedule for the department, for these positions. In addition to, we also have to do a budget adjustment to reflect the new department, the expenses that go along with the department, because as you know, for years, the only expense we had for there was professional services. We never had salary and benefits in there, so we have to add those additional, we have to do those adjustments as part of the new department. Also to, with the two staff members that we now have here, there's going to be potentially some time where there maybe need either some help. Somebody could be out, whether they're on vacation, need to go on vacation, or sick. So we're also looking to authorize a professional service agreement with VCA Code. VCA Code is a company very similar like Interwest that can come in there and provide some of that immediate staffing if and when we need it. It's not something that we necessarily have to commit to. It's just kind of like a backup just in case if that does happen, and it's going to happen from time to time. Hopefully not. So VCA Code, what they'll do is they'll provide some of the high level plan checks that maybe our deputy building official won't be able to do. But I sort of kind of anticipate that for the most part, the type of plan reviews that we do in this community, I think for the most part are going to be handled by him. But there could be some that we do run into where it could involve that we need something more of a higher level expert to kind of handle. So that's why VCA Code is there for approving. In addition to that, and I mentioned the MOU with the City of Wildomar. We are working on an agreement with the City of Wildomar. They're actually going through the same process, staffing change in their department. I believe ending their services also too with Interwest, and they're going to add their employees too as well. And we were going to get into an MOU with them so that way we could have sort of joint services if ever needed for staffing. So we have two options, VCA Code in the city of Wildemar. So that's another resolution that's up for approval, is approving the MOU with the city of Wildemar. All in all, we anticipate that we should have sort of a savings in the general fund of about 50 to 100,000 per year with the new transition that we're moving to with the new building department. So overall, it's a huge savings. It's going to be much better service than what we had before. We are implementing additional features to the department that's going to help streamline some of the processing for inspections, people that want to get status on a permit. These are all things we're trying to do to help the department streamline and just working more efficiently overall. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
If I may just, thank you, Mike, great job. Just to kind of paint a clear picture of what's is really a unique hybrid staffing model that we're putting together here. We have 2 in-house staff, our deputy building official / inspector, who will be in charge of the department on a day-to-day basis. And then our permit technician, who is kind of half clerical, half technical, where a good permit technician can do a very simple plan check by themselves, and if someone drops off a plan, they can look at it and say, oh yeah, this is simple, or if it's more complicated, then hand it on. But we will not be employing an in-house building official. So our building official will be the building official for the city of Wildemar, who they have recently hired in. So that building official will oversee our deputy building official. That building official will be someone that applicants can go to if they don't like the answer they're getting from our deputy building official and they want to take it to a higher level. That'll be someone that they can go to. The MOU with Wildemar is fantastic because it costs us nothing until we use the service. So it's completely as needed. In addition to that building official oversight, as Mike mentioned, they will provide backup staff for us when they have staff available to us. So on the other side, we contract with VCA Code, and they do a couple things for us. The more complex plan check goes to VCA Code. We anticipate that that'll be about 15 plan checks a year is what we're anticipating based on kind of the historical volume through our department. Everything else we anticipate being able to handle in-house. And then they also have staff available that can help backfill and fill in if we have someone out sick or something. So in terms of backup staff, we'll have Wildemar, we'll have VCA Code. We anticipate going to Wildemar first because it costs us less. The hourly rate is less than with VCA Code. We'll say, hey, do you have someone that you can fill in? If they say no, then we go to VCA Code and they fill in. So I think it's a great hybrid plan. It should save us a lot of money every year and allow us to have this department open all day, Monday through Thursday, and really improve level of service.
One question. Based on the problems that we encountered when Charles Abbott left, the records, plans, is this transition from Interwest to our new department, is it pretty clean? We're still using the same software?
That we've had since Charles Abbott?
But after Charles Abbott.
Oh, yeah. So
there, that Interwest, basically what I'm saying is Interwest is not taking anything away from us.
They're not. They didn't come with a program like the way Charles Abbott did.
It's the one we developed.
Yes, iWork. It's called iWork.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that Interwest hadn't, for a better term, infiltrated that program and then took it with them when they left.
No. That program is internal, and that's here. It's permanently here.
Reason that's important is for those who want to come back to the city at some time that may have to prove a building permit or a plan, as long as it's within our system that we've had here recently, we should be able to track it.
When we went away from the program that we had with Charles Abbott, everything, all the data, all the information that was there, all the history, that all transitioned into iWork. So that's all there.
Okay, good.
And that's not going away. It's not going away with
this is a great
Interwest.
move. I mean, it really, I think the improvement here is in-house. The improvement is better control and better service to the community. So I think it's a win all the way. So it's been long overdue.
It's been long overdue.
And congratulations to the Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
My question for you, we're going to try to, if we haven't already, we're working towards being able to pull permits online. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So, I've had conversations with several different realtors and developers in the community, and in my day job, that's something that I do pretty regularly, go to City Hall and pull permits for my clients, and it'll be so helpful for the realtor community in Canyon Lake and just builders as a whole that we have that program. I mean, leaps and bounds. This is a huge kudos to staff on finally putting this together. I know Councilmember Green and I, when we were on Budget and Finance together, this was one of the big things that we tried to take on, and now we've been able to finish it. It's been a nightmare, but we did it. And the biggest accomplishment here is when you look at fiscal impact, it says anticipated savings. That is huge, and that is so good for the city of Canyon Lake. And I just want to say thanks for the dedication and keeping the pedal to the metal on this one. So.
It's been
Awesome
a long
work.
few years, dealing with the building department, so we're in a good place now.
Absolutely.
And to reiterate with the inspections, or doing online permitting, that went active today.
So I got a favor to ask, Mike, if you don't mind. I don't know if we've, and maybe this is a question for Tyler, if we looked at doing an announcement on social media for this.
Most definitely. We've already kind of discussed that. We're looking to put something out to let everyone knows, the changes that we're doing, how much easier it is going to be for anyone that's looking to pull a permit. We're actually hosting a training, I believe it's tomorrow around 2 p.m. We've invited, it's a training that iWorks is doing.
Okay.
And we're inviting contractors, anyone that typically deals with the building department, to get first-hand training on how the new portal for online permitting, online inspections, and all that stuff works. It's actually at 2 p.m. tomorrow in the area known as the library.
So, favor to ask, I can't make the 2 p.m., but can we set something up so I can get trained on it as well, so I can give some presentations to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
iWork is willing to give any kind of training to anyone that's looking.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then maybe, Tyler, we can work on some type of, presentation packet that we can give to Coldwell Banker and some of the other partners here, just so we can show them how to properly do that, because it's a regular request, and I think this is awesome that the city's finally doing this.
If they can attend the training course tomorrow, iWork is putting it on. They're gonna be doing it, I think, via Zoom.
Okay.
So, and they're gonna be able to walk people through on how this portal works and how easy it is to.
Did we invite anyone from the real estate
We
space?
actually reached out to, the building department reached out to our new deputy building official. He reached out to the majority of the contractors that typically come to the office.
Okay.
So we have a good handful of them showing up tomorrow.
Okay. Perfect.
But it's open to anyone that's interested in
Absolutely.
learning too.
Well, seriously, great job, guys. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Daner Welty.
I'd just like to say this is a great idea, Councilman Welty, that we're moving ahead with this. I think the level of service our community will be appreciated. We're a unique community. Not everything is the same. Everything's very different with the lot sizes, with the slopes that we have in our community. So I just want to say thank you. I'd like to throw my hat in with Councilman Smith, is that if you do have a makeup session, I'd like to be able to be invited and attend. So Mike, thank you for everything you did, and the rest of the staff.
Absolutely.
Can I just make a quick comment here? Mike, is the training tomorrow, or is it, I see it on calendar for
I apologize. I just realized it's September 7th at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Tuesday, September 7th at 2 p.m.
So
Sorry
Tuesday
about
of
that.
next week.
Thank you.
That's next week.
Super,
Yes.
super good. I'll get the word out on
I'm
that.
getting ahead of myself.
No,
Sorry.
thank you for the clarification. The other question I had for
Thank
the
you.
city attorney, can we take up all these resolutions together as one, if we identify the numbers?
Please do.
I'll make the motion that.
Wait,
Oh,
I would like to
I'm
talk.
so sorry.
Jeez. I also want to say thank you. This is a big deal for the Finance Committee. This is a big deal for the people who regularly do business in Canyon Lake. And we have heard a lot of complaints, and I'm hoping that this changes our reputation. So, very grateful. With that, is there any comment cards?
No public comment.
Okay. I know you're super excited about this, so would you like to make a motion?
All right, for the sake of time, I will take up resolution. This is business item number 12. City Attorney, do you want me to read all the numbers into the record?
I think it's fine to simply say the 4 resolutions
Perfect.
under action item 12.
Perfect. I make the motion that we move forward with business item number 12, resolution Building and Safety Department staffing for all the resolution numbers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty? Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Hi, Don, me, sorry, fell off the light fell off the phone.
It's okay, thank you. Motion carried to adopt resolutions number 2021-40, 2021-41, 2021-42, and 2021-43.
It's okay. All right, thank you. All right. Are we all managing all right? Or?
We're doing great.
Okay. We are on item number 13. This is a resolution for the adoption of Resolution 2021-44, approving a partnership agreement with the County of Riverside Emergency Management Department for emergency management services. Blah, blah, blah.
Mr. Borja.
Okay. So this resolution is for approving the partnership agreement with Riverside County's Emergency Management Department for emergency management services. So what emergency management services are basically the services that we receive to assist with anything that has to do sort of with emergency preparedness, any type of help that we get for updating our emergency operations plan, any kind of training that involves emergency preparedness for the city. As you know, city employees are considered to be disaster service workers, so we are obligated to respond to an emergency operations center. So those type of services that we provide, county EMD helps to provide some of those needs, some of the training, some of the certifications that kind of go along with it. So just a quick little history. So at the June City Council meeting of this year, Council approved the cooperative agreement with Riverside County Fire Protection Service for a period of 6 months. That agreement excluded emergency management services. So what we're bringing forward today to City Council for approval is to get into a partnership agreement for those emergency management services with Riverside County. Again, this is because it's been excluded as part of the agreement that we currently have for 6 months. You know, since I have been here, Riverside County has always had an emergency service coordinator assigned to every city, which is really unique and actually a good thing that was really nice about Riverside County, because it's not what I've had before in other counties that I worked at. Having that help from the county on anything that has to do with emergency preparedness is a huge plus. We are required to update our emergency operation plan, as you know, Councilmember Green, often, just to meet all the requirements from NIMS to SIMS, anything that has to do with that. So this partnership is not only to provide the guidance for staff on some of these requirements that we need to do, but to also provide some man hours to assist with those plans, any kind of tabletop training that we decide that we're going to do here in the city for city staff, which, by the way, we should be doing them more oftenly. Training, any kind of training, whether it's CERT or ICS trainings, 100, 700, 800s, all the required trainings that we need to have as disaster service worker. This agreement will do that. It's a 3-year agreement, but at the cost of what we're getting the service for, it's pretty good. So again, we're asking council to adopt resolution 2021-44 approving this partnership agreement with Riverside County EMD for those services. Questions?
Councilmember Green?
Question. Is this a 6-month fee or an annual fee?
It's an annual fee.
20,000?
Well, it's 20,000, and then there's a second
20,000 is sort of a base service amount.
Okay, I
And there's
saw
an
the-
additional 5,000 that provides the additional man-hours with us.
Yeah.
For those additional items as updating emergency operation plan, any kind of training.
Okay,
And
I
so on and
was
so forth.
looking, it still gives us access to Ralph Mesa? Or do we have to go to B?
That's actually, I believe so, because I believe Ralph is probably assigned to this area, so I would believe.
He's District 1, yes.
Yeah, so he would probably be our service coordinator that would be assisting and guiding us in this service plan.
Okay, it says without service coordinator.
Well, it says without service coordinator, but they still will provide that guidance. So there'll still be communication.
Okay.
There won't be sort of, that's why the additional 5,000 is to actually provide man hours for somebody to be here.
Okay.
That base service of 20,000, it does exclude that, but the county's already expressed to me that there'll still be some one-on-one involvement with whoever that coordinator is, which I would believe is probably Ralph Mesa.
Okay, that's for 20,000 for what we can get from grants to plan developments to training is well worth it. It's well worth it.
Yeah, it's been kind of the same type of service that we've actually been getting them this entire
Okay,
time. So
that's the only other question.
It's a huge savings
Is it any
to us.
change in what we currently have?
Yeah, not so much.
Let me said too, so up until this year, these costs have been rolled into our overall agreement with the county for fire service, like all the other cities in the county. We always knew it was in there, but it was never identified specifically. So we never really knew what portion of what we were paying went to these services. Actually, apparently it was the city of Moreno Valley that complained about this. And so it caused the county to relook at how they were doing this. And they decided that starting this fiscal year, they were going to no longer include those or wrap those in with those fire services. So it's not just for us, it's countywide. And so we had to ask to find out that we had been paying about $35,000 a year for these services. And so County EMD is doing this for the first time. They're having to have contracts between them and these cities, and frankly, it feels like they're still trying to figure it out. So the first proposal they sent to us didn't quite hit the mark for us, and so Mike went and he talked to them, and they kind of worked out what you see in front of you. And so in terms of number of hours and the services, we think this is going to be pretty much what we've been receiving up until now. We think this number of hours hits the sweet spot, but we're going to see how it goes this first year, and we might have to make adjustments.
Okay.
But we're basically trying to get where we've been, but we're going to have a little bit of a savings actually. So.
And I know why Moreno Valley probably questioned, because they have their own EMD coordinator, Z. Bricker, who came from County EMD, who's their coordinator. So she and them and Corona and the larger cities have a dedicated person, so.
Yeah, this agreement allows us to look at it again, and if it turns out that we need additional services, we can do that.
This is a good contract.
It's good savings.
Any other council comments or questions? Is there any public comment cards?
No comments.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2021-44.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2021-44.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 14. This is a discussion item regarding additional traffic enforcement measures on Railroad Canyon Road.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This item actually came out of a discussion I had recently with Councilman Green. I think we've all noticed that there has been an increase in incidents, traffic incidents on Railroad Canyon Road. A lot of those seem to be related to speed. In fact, some of them are flat out racing, and many of them are related, it seems, to alcohol use and drug use. And so had a conversation recently with Lieutenant Rails, who's still here in the audience, who may want to chime in at some point here, but on how we might approach addressing these issues. And we came up with three possible approaches here. First of all, Lieutenant Rails has offered to ask our deputy that's already on duty to patrol Railroad Canyon Road more frequently when not on other calls. Second option that was identified was to purchase and place speed trailers, similar to the ones that the POA uses. However, these would not be issuing tickets. They would flash your speed and be a deterrent to speeding. And then a third option was identified was for the city to pay for additional patrols on Railroad Canyon Road. We have the ability to pay a fee that's less than than the hourly rate for our regular deputies. Be about $95.59 per hour. Our regular rate's $197.90 per hour to get some additional patrol hours on Railroad Canyon. So, for example, if council wanted to budget, say, $10,000, that would give us about 104 hours of patrol time that we could strategically do during times when we know historically that's when incidents tend to happen on Railroad Canyon. The rough estimate of costs on the trailer is about $9,000 per trailer. If we use the company that the Sheriff's Department typically uses, now there are lots of different options. You can get pretty fancy with these trailers if you want them to be able to, put messages up on them and things like that too. But the kind of simple ones that just flash the speed are about $9,000. So at this point, we just wanted to bring this item for discussion from the council. If the council wants to allocate some funding, would need to bring back a budget adjustment for that, but wanted to address these issues and concerns we've been hearing in the community about speed and incidents on Railroad Canyon.
Okay, my turn?
Yeah.
Can I
Sure.
go? Sure. I do think that we need some active traffic control. Busy hours of rush hour, our speed limits are really off the wall. They hit the signals if they're not slowed down at the signal at Canyon Hills, and if they hit them all, 65, 75, 85, they're running over the hill. And rush hour, if they're not doing that, I had one yesterday that ran down at Skylink, not Skylink, whatever the golf course or the estates turn in is, and that's blocked off.
Yeah.
Well, he went past, and Lake Elsinore went past in front of the workout area, which is you're supposed to be over a lane, ran the lane all the way down through the bike lane, through our boulevard here, went all the way down and kept going all the way through all the marked zones and he was driving a Charger, and he was, the flow of traffic was moving at 55, and he was doing probably 95, and had disregard for anything's going on, any pedestrians, any bicyclists, and that's an occurrence. I happened to be close enough to the boulevard, and from about sometimes 11 at night on, from Menifee, probably all the way down to the bottom of the hill at the freeway, this is almost like a race zone with a lot of the really high-end bikes and cars, mainly the Ninja bikes that will run at 10,000 RPMs. You can tell them because they're just screaming. And matter of fact, I was talking to the city manager, and one just happened to be on the phone at the same time, and you can tell when they're not doing 50 or 60. They're really flat hauling. So I think that's increasing our risk factors for our citizens, and I think the only way we're going to slow them down. I think the radar trailer works in some cities that can cite them. Our radar signs are up, and they're almost ignored now. It's just like, let's see how fast it shows I'm going. I think the radar, once the word got out that we weren't enforcing on the radar trailers, probably be the same effect because traffic's moving. So I think we need to slow them down. I know Menifee put out through their traffic division, they were going to do active speed trap or speed control on Getz and a couple other boulevards to set up to slow down the racing that's going on, because we do have night racing that's happening. You guys know it. Marietta contacted me, one of their council members, and their police department monitors the Facebook blogs these kids put out. And so a lot of times our city pops up as a site to come to race because of the potential of being open. One, for it's a pretty clear shot for them until they hit the curve. And two, they know that they got a good chance that nobody's going to enforce them. So I really think we need to slow them down, and maybe writing some tickets, presents, will start getting people for a while to slow down. So that's me.
Anyone else have comment or question?
This is Councilman Welty. With Larry, I don't think using the existing patrol is really going to be effective. The call times are already, they're not perfect. If we take our patrol and put them on the Railroad Canyon, I think it's just going to slow that down. They're doing a good job. I think we would just weaken their ability to do a good job. I'm with the trailers. I don't think they're that effective after a while. I would go with let's spend a little money and get a traffic patrol out there with a strategic plan. If we just throw somebody out there randomly, I don't think that's going to be very effective. I think you need a strategic plan of knowing when the high risk times are and getting a patrolman out there.
Well, I noticed that other cities in the county here and other cities over on the other side of the hill, a lot of times when they're doing active enforcement and they've got a troubled area, they start putting it out so people will know. And with a few tickets being writ, like 50 or 60 tickets, the word gets out real quick that, hey, they're active, they're important, and they want us to start adhering to the traffic laws. Because our boulevard is one major thoroughfare now. It's not just little Canyon Lake 2-lane road. It's a major feed for Hemet, all the people running over the 15, people heading south. So we get a lot of traffic flow in the evening hours, especially from the signals that they're backed up, and people are really moving if they can hit them. So I think the only way that we're going to do it is just show presence.
Did you want to say something?
I did. I just wanted to address the general issue with speed controls in cities. The city's ability to set speed limits is limited under state law by what's called the 85th percentile rule, where cities do studies every so number of years, and the speed limit that the city is required to set has to be such that no more than 15% of people in that study are exceeding it. And this has led over the last 30 or 40 years to a steady increase in speed limits on city roads. You do have a bill in the legislature right now, AB 43, that is intended to give city councils more control over the speed limits, especially on thoroughfares abutting businesses like we have here in Canyon Lake. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If that's something you want more information on, I'm happy to send an email summary of that. It's also one of the league's hot bills that's being tracked, and a lot of cities are sending in letters of support so that they can begin to take a little bit more control over speeding in their communities.
I think Canyon Lake has concerns, however, regarding speed limits that may affect golf cart travel.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that being said, I respectfully disagree with you, Dale. Looking at the sites for August, actually, I'm sorry, for, I guess, August and July, it looks like traffic and parking sites, or traffic/parking sites, look like 2 each. And frequently I see our Canyon Lake deputy parked in the town center. I think that we should try that deputy cruising around the streets a little more before we decide to spend money on this.
I have to agree with the mayor as well. Just, looking at law enforcement studies, and you might be able to comment on this. I don't know, do you guys park rigs just for an appearance purposes to, obviously if someone's speeding and they see a vehicle and there's not an officer in it, but if it's just parked, that sometimes, is a way to deter negative activity. Do you guys do programs like that in the Sheriff's Department?
We have in the past. That's if there's extra vehicles available to do that.
Right. Because I agree. I think, obviously we had a few incidents that were bad. We had some street racing incidents, but overall, I think that if we had a presence, if we do have a vehicle that we could park or work with you in that regards of maybe just showing a presence on the main drag, I think it would really help the cause.
Yeah, well, we can increase the patrols, no problem. If there's a higher priority call that comes out, then they'll just have to leave that stop real quick, which we do all the time. It happens. So like you said, if you're seeing them sitting in the town center, checking things out there, they could easily be on Railroad Canyon driving up and down. Just a presence is going to make a huge difference. It definitely is. So we could start that. I can also have our crime analysts go ahead and do a study on times when most of these traffic accidents are happening.
That'd be great.
At least the major ones, so we can kind of narrow down the time frame in case you decide to do that in the future.
That'd be great. Thank you.
But we'll go ahead and put that out and get them. We've already started it.
Do you guys do like any, to tell the volume of traffic, since we don't have any metering going on, put out one of those traffic meters that counts the cars so that we could get the flow? I know there are times that it flows very well down to the freeway and other times it's really slow. Maybe those would be the times, because that seems to be when I see the highest risk. Although early in the morning is a whole different story. It's a whole different group.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they're there for a specific reason, and it's to go as fast as they can.
You're pretty much getting the same travelers from Getz Road.
Yeah.
All the way down Railroad Canyon, all the way through Lake Elsinore. Same issues on both sides.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Okay, so at this point, we've had discussion. Anything that you want to add, Councilmember Dane?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we did receive an electronic public comment. The comment was received by Mr. John Zeitz. The comment and the attachments are provided or have been provided to the City Council, City Attorney, and City Manager. Everybody has copies before you tonight. So the comment will be entered into the record. However, as I mentioned before, I will not be reading emailed comments aloud. Thank
Okay.
you.
And we did receive those, and I, speaking for myself, I did read those. Okay, so at this point, while this is a discussion, I think it's looking for some direction to staff based on the discussion. I think we have heard of, various opinions and some suggestions. Any specific direction to staff that you would suggest?
Well, I think the lieutenant had offered some things to bring back to us that we could probably then evaluate whether we wanted to move that way. I think one of the things you offered as a short-term solution is our current deputy, in having them more present on the street, which I totally agree will show that, hey, there is somebody out here, and if they see him once in a while stopping someone, I think that'll add a little more credence to what we're trying to do. So I think with that, my suggestion would be to bring those back to us, maybe with some options, and then we could evaluate if that's one of those options would be good, and then what the cost would be, and then make a decision.
I think that's appropriate. So in the interim, we'd ask the lieutenant to make sure that up and down that short area that is in our city limits that we see police presence, and then bring back something at a later date if we have items or suggestions that may be viable. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we need a motion or a second for that, correct?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor that if we can try the patrol and get some presence out there, and if we have success, we can go with that. If we're not successful, we can revisit it in the future.
Sounds great. Okay, moving on to item number 15. This is an ordinance, introduction and first reading of ordinance 212, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, amending Chapter 2.34 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code to create a Canyon Lake Fire Department.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is very exciting. I'm going to turn this over to the chief in just a second, but this is a big deal. This is actually creating by ordinance our fire department. Long time coming, and we're here. Chief Latendress, sorry you've had to sit through 9 items here at the dais, but we finally gotten to you, so take it away, please.
Very uncomfortable, very awkward sitting here this evening, so excuse me while I get orientated to try to give my presentations tonight. Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, city staff, city attorney, Jeff Latendress, your interim fire chief. And so tonight I'm going to be bringing several items for your consideration. Several of those are related to updating sections of the city's municipal code. As you know, as we get ready to move forward with the creation of a city fire department, part of that creation is reviewing our documents and our ordinances and our codes and making sure that they address the transition from Riverside County CAL FIRE to a city fire department. And so the first one we're going to bring forward is actually kind of a unique and interesting one because it's already in existence and we haven't created our own fire department yet. So I tried to do some research on this one of creating our own fire department, and it was first enacted in June of 2015. And so if you recall about that time, the city's finances were such that the contract with CAL FIRE was going to stop on January 1st of 2015. An interim fire chief was hired. Some policies and some job descriptions were created, and the city was moving forward at that time with creating a municipal fire department. Part of that process was the adoption of this municipal code ordinance that created a fire department. I believe that as part of the research that was done about this time, it was determined that creating a municipal fire department was not cost effective. And so for a period about 2 years, the fire station remained closed. And in July of 2017, the fire station reopened. However, this ordinance was never rescinded, was never struck down, and has remained in the books since that time. So as we went through the municipal code and identified ordinances that need to be updated, a lot of our work was already done for us because this ordinance was already in place. What does this ordinance actually do? Well, it actually provides for a declaration of purpose and intent for having a fire department and the qualifications that we go through on establishing a fire department. It establishes the duties and the organization. It provides for the appointment and the supervision of a fire chief. It establishes the duties and the responsibilities of the firefighters. And finally, it provides for the privileges, the immunities, and the term of the fire chief. It's been updated to reflect the positions and the titles that we're going to be moving forward with, other than what was originally done in 2015. And so it's our recommendation tonight that you approve this first reading and introduction of ordinance number 212, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, amending chapters 2.34 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code to create a municipal fire department, and that you direct the city clerk to notice and schedule a second reading and adoption at the next regular city council meeting in October. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council? Pretty self-explanatory. Any public comment cards?
No comments.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance 212.
Madam Mayor, I think the city attorney has a comment.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
Sorry, real quick one. Going through the backup as we're going along, I noticed a small typo that I think should be part of the motion. 234060 goes subsection A, and then subsection C, and then another subsection C. That second one is supposed to be a subsection B. I think we probably could have taken care of that afterwards, but it can be part of the motion.
So it needs to be 234060 subsection B?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there needs to be a subsection B.
Okay. So the motion and second to approve the introduction, the first reading, ordinance 212, to include the, I guess it would be this amendment for 234060 subsection B. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 212, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, amending Chapter 2.34 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code to create a Canyon Lake Fire Department and including the amendments mentioned by the mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to item 16, introduction and first reading of ordinance 213, an ordinance of the City of Council, City of Canyon Lake, California, readopting the 2019 California Fire Code, amending Chapter 8.12 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code.
Chief Lieutenant.
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City Staff, again, Jeff Lieutenant Sheeran, I'm Fire Chief, and this is the second item that we're bringing forward with the review of the municipal code that needed to be altered, amended, and changed to reflect the city's creation of a municipal fire department. So the fire code is one of the model codes that exist for your building, planning, fire departments that they enforce, and those are adopted and revised every 3 years. And so every jurisdiction is required to adopt and amend those codes through the local process. We last adopted our fire code on the first reading was December 4th of 2019. And a lot of the language in the current adoption of the fire code identifies county, the elected chief, or the appointed chief, Riverside County Fire. And so there was a lot of language items as we went through the code that need to be cleaned up to reflect a municipal fire department. As part, though, of going through and just doing that cleanup, I went through and reviewed the local amendments that we had here for the city of Canyon Lake. And with my experience as a fire marshal and fire prevention officer in a community that has a lot of light structures in Canyon Lake, what we call cliffhangers, where you enter on the top floor and the house goes down 2 or 3 stories, or you enter at the bottom floor and it goes up 2 or 3 stories. Access around those structures are extremely difficult. It's a community that's mostly built out, such as the community that I came from. And so changing or increasing fire safety standards on those structures is going to be very difficult in the future. Any new single-family resident that's built today would have residential fire sprinklers. It's a requirement from the California State Code, and we can make more stricter requirements, but we can't make lesser requirements. So any new dwelling that's built from the ground up, minimum requirement from the state, would have to have a residential fire sprinkler requirement in there. But existing buildings, as they go through and they get remodeled or altered or changed, we really have no control over the way the current code was written. So as I reviewed the code, I went through and made some recommendations so that we could better protect our community, better protect our firefighters and our automatic and mutual aid firefighters as they respond in to the community, and better provide for a safer environment for those living next door to these structures. So some of the recommendations that I have is, first off, in the definitions of having what we call a hazardous fire area. And so if we have a hazardous fire area, by that definition, the fire chief has greater latitude and authority to go in there and abate and mitigate a hazardous fire area. The second real change in there is in regards to fire lanes in the community. Being able to have fire department access is incredibly important. We're probably not going to build a whole lot of new roads here in Canyon Lake in the near future. But if we do build driveways or roadways to developments that are 1 or 2 houses, such as I've learned now we call our flag lots, making sure that we have the proper width and identification of those driveways and access roads is important so that we can get back there and provide not only fire protection, but provide ambulance service and so forth, so that we can render emergency services in there. I'll talk about it when I give an update on the fire department, but our gates to the community, and there's a program out there called a Knox program, where just about every fire department has a key-in access to gates in the community. And so the fire code is written that it exempts houses with a gate that are a single-family house. They don't have to have an automatic gate opener. But it didn't stipulate that those houses need to have still a manual override key so that we can get in there. So if you have a home with a gate around your driveway, we still need to be able to open and access that gate. So that's better clarified in here. But probably the biggest change, and I'll read it, is what I started off with the residential sprinkler program. And so when a residential sprinkler system is required, I'm recommending that we modify it to say that this section was expanded to require residential fire sprinklers in homes that receive a major remodel. If an addition is more than 33% more than the existing building, and the new total square footage is over 5,000 square feet, or when an additional 2,000 square feet is added and the resulting building area exceeds 5,000 square feet, or when the additions, alterations, or repairs have a valuation of more than 50% of the building's prior valuation, then residential fire sprinklers are required. It should be noted that all residential structures built today are required to have residential fire sprinklers. So we're not talking about someone going in there and doing a simple remodel to their home. We're not talking about someone going in there and adding a living room or a bedroom or something like that to their home. We're talking about someone that goes in and is adding 2,000 square feet, and their home now exceeds 5,000 square feet. Essentially what we're doing is we're creating a commercial building, the square footage the size of a commercial building. And having those built-in fire protections when someone goes in there and does a remodel is critical for the occupant safety and for firefighter safety. And I think a key point is to remember here that residential fire sprinklers aren't intended to extinguish a fire. They're intended to keep the fire in check, to activate an alarm so that the occupants can safely exit the home, egress the home, and limit the loss of life in our community. So that's what we're proposing here. I don't anticipate that a lot of the buildings in the community will be impacted by this recommendation, but it's something that I believe is a truly important aspect. I talked to the water district, and there's a concern about cost of adding the fire sprinklers to the home. And the cost, depending on who you talk to, is about $2 or $3 a square foot for residential fire sprinklers. The other cost that could be associated with that is in the water meter, because you have to put you might have to put a larger valve there. So I communicated with the water district, the Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, and they said that for most homes with what they call a two-head calculation, that the standard 3/4 inch water valve at the entrance to the home would be sufficient for fire sprinklers. There may be homes that when they get over 5,000 square feet, with the number of water appliances that they have, so showers, hose bibs, sinks and dishwashers and water heaters and all that, well, that the plumbing code says that when you have so many of those appliances, you need a water valve coming into your house that's so large. Well, a house that's probably over 5,000 square feet that has 4 or 5 bedrooms and stuff like that probably would be required, irregardless of the sprinkler system, to have a 1-inch valve. And it probably wouldn't be the sprinkler system that makes that code requirement click in. So I don't believe that there would be an increase in a need or requirement for a need to upgrade your water valve from a 3/4 inch to a 1-inch valve for the fire sprinklers in a typical home. So that's my presentation. It's our recommendation that you adopt the first reading and move the adoption of the fire code to a second reading. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Any questions from council? Hearing none. Any public comment cards?
No comments.
I need a motion and a second for the introduction and first reading of ordinance 213.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 213, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, readopting the 2019 California Fire Code as amended as Chapter 8.12 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code.
Thank you.
Mayor, I just wanted to, as an informational point, note that unlike most ordinances where the second reading is going to be on consent, your second reading for this one is actually going to be a public hearing, and that's because of the way you have to adopt codes by reference.
Okay.
So didn't want you to be surprised when you see that on your next agenda. It's not a mistake. It's required.
Moving right along to number 17, introduction and first reading of ordinance 214, an ordinance of the City Council of City of Canyon Lake amending Chapter 11.03 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code prohibiting personal fireworks. Yay.
All right, Chief Latendresse.
Again, good evening. I think we know the introduction, so I'll bypass that. Whoever updates the municipal code is going to be a very busy person after all the updates that we brought forward tonight, not just with the fire department. This is the final one that I'll bring forward this evening, and again, as our review of the municipal code completed, this was the last one that really referenced CAL FIRE, Riverside County, and that needed some administrative or some changes in recognizing your own city fire department. But again, as we went through it, we wanted to do more than just edit, copy, paste where it said Riverside County and make it more appropriate and applicable. And actually, as we move forward, getting ready for July 4th of this year, I presented to the city manager that, you know what, our ordinance on fireworks is different than Riverside County's. A couple months ago, because of what happened in 2020 during the COVID crisis, of people not being able to go to a public fireworks show, individuals had their own public fireworks shows throughout the county. And it created a lot of problems. It started several fires, and people were hurt. There was actually a fire, I'm sure everybody heard about it, in 2020 that was done in San Bernardino that was a gender reveal. And it actually cost the life of a firefighter in that fire. So at that time, we really didn't have enough time to update our own fireworks ordinance to reflect that of Riverside County. And so as we were going through and making those administrative changes to the fireworks ordinance, we took the opportunity to change the ordinance in regards to the penalties that are created for a person that uses fireworks in the city of Canyon Lake. And so essentially what it was previously the penalty or the fine was $500, and then for a second one it might be $1,000, and then it would top at $1,000. In our proposed ordinance, we are mirroring exactly what Riverside County's ordinance does on fireworks, and we're going to start off right up with a $1,000 fine. And we actually have a unique opportunity now that it's not just the potential of a misdemeanor where you get the fine, but we can also cite them for a violation of the municipal code. So with a violation of the municipal code, we can take all that money 100% to the city if we do fine any persons for fireworks. So the city attorney has gone through and drafted how we would enforce and have an appeal process for our new collection of the fines. And we've also included some language that was missing previously that recognizes our city code enforcement officers, and they would be able to also cite for violation of this ordinance and possibly do some seizures. Seizures of fireworks is extremely difficult. They are hazardous materials, and so we have to make sure that when we do seizures that we deal with the property that we're seizing appropriately. So that really concludes my presentation tonight. For the most part, again, the ordinance is only changing in the fines by the recognition of our code enforcement people and the appeal process so that it's in line with the city's appeal process.
Thank you. I think this is an important adjustment. I know that this is a major concern of the citizens of Canyon Lake. People are very anti-fireworks on the city streets, or the private streets within the city. Sorry. So I'm in favor of stricter penalties, and I appreciate the update. Anyone else?
Can I point out, from an enforcement perspective, one additional tool that the fire chief has recommended here that I've utilized in other communities is extremely effective, that you'll find in 1103.020D, which allows us not only to cite the person who's actually setting off the fireworks, but to cite the property owner who's allowing their property to be used for fireworks. Oftentimes, it's very difficult for the enforcement personnel to actually see somebody using the fireworks, but we can certainly see where they have been used, and that will dramatically assist, I think, the enforcement personnel in the enforcement of the ordinance.
I have a question about that, though. How?
I thought you might, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
As the defense attorney in me, how does that really work? How do you, well, I mean, maybe you don't want to.
So, no, I'll answer, because I put it.
That just seems weird. I don't
put
want
it in the language,
specific.
and I did the constitutional research on it.
Okay.
Any such person shall be in violation of this chapter regardless of such person's intent, knowledge, or negligence, such violation being hereby expressly declared a strict liability offense. And there is California appellate court case law upholding prohibitions on fireworks as strict liability offenses because they are dangerous materials. So yes, we're not even going to have to prove intent or necessarily knowledge.
That was my question.
Now, obviously, if we're going to be doing criminal prosecutions, we're going to use our discretion.
Okay.
But to be clear, one of the issues, one of the ways that I've seen this type of language used in another nearby community was going after the property owners where fires actually were started as a way to effectively recoup the costs of the department in responding, because it was felt in those cases the results were so egregious it warranted utilizing the strict liability language that we'd included in the ordinance.
So this will be assessed on a case-by-case basis?
Yes. So, one of the things that we've been putting in all of our new ordinances is language that authorizes the city enforcement officials and the city attorney to exercise their prosecutorial discretion. When looking at this, I mean, kids with sparklers are not the same as people lighting up an entire mountainside at a gender reveal party. Those are two different things, and they should be treated differently. Okay. And then, just as a general note, one of the things I am working with the city manager on is a general code enforcement section of our code. We already have some language in that regard, but instead of adding all of this amazing enforcement language to every single ordinance, one of the things I've recommended the city manager we do is have that for all of our ordinances, have it in one specific section, list all of the enforcement officials, list all of this language, so that we can use these tools for our entire code.
Okay.
You?
Question for the chief?
Yes, sir.
We have a pyrotechnic professional shoot every 4th of July. Will we be the inspector on that site?
Yes, sir, we will. This last year, I worked with Riverside County CAL FIRE to learn their process, to see what they have set up historically. I was out there on the morning of the 4th on Skipper's Island and was part of the inspection process out there. And the CAL FIRE has been very gracious in sharing with me all of their documentations of what they do and how they've done it. The person or the company that typically does the shoot, Pyro Spectacular,
right.
The same person has been there for a number of years. I met with them. We communicated that this will change, and we will continue working with them as we get forward for next year. So it should be a seamless process as we transition to our 4th of July fireworks show.
Is there any additional training for fire personnel for pyrotechnics for inspection?
There is, and I attended a seminar prior to going out there on the 4th at Anaheim Stadium in Orange County. I had the classes back when I was a fire marshal, and I wanted to refresh myself in case there was any new items that came up in the codes, and I anticipate going to the full class again next year.
Okay. The other thing that I've got, and it's going to be reference to the department, our other events that we have within the lake, Fiesta Days and all of them, require the fire department to give permitted processes for heating appliances, for access, for fire extinguishers. Are we taking that over, and there is a permit for that? And do we have that permit fee structure in place yet?
We will be taking over all fire prevention activities effective January 1st of 2022. The city attorney, city manager, and myself have had discussions about the fee schedule. I don't know if you want to address that or if you want.
No, I was just making sure that on the delivery service side of our fire department, that's one of them that I did not want to give to the county, because right now, currently, the county is raking off the top of good stuff, such as our state license structures that we have. Part of our deal when we took over the fire code, we negotiated with them. They still do the state inspections, but I think we should take them because there is a fee with them, but I believe we can do a better job locally.
They have provided me a list of already of the state mandated inspections.
Perfect.
I've been in communications with the responsible party at CAL FIRE, and we'll be taking them over January 1st.
So we're full service.
We will be full service, yes, sir.
Perfect, that's all I need to hear. I don't know anything about it, but it's a good idea.
Any additional questions or comments from council? Anything from the city attorney?
Well, I mean, now that you've called on me, no. Just a note on the effective dates of these ordinances. So you'll notice that Ordinance 15, which was the fire department ordinance, that's going into effect 30 days after adoption. This one's going into effect 30 days after adoption. But the fire code update is going to affect January 1st, 2022, because that's the day of the actual transfer.
Okay. Are we, just going back to codes, are we referencing any NFPA standards in our codes? Or are you referencing them, or are you just going blank?
In the amendments of the California Fire Code, they reference the appropriate and applicable NFPA code. So in the fire sprinkler section, it referenced NFPA 13, 13R, and 13D.
Okay.
At one time, I believe the fire code referenced by name the NFPA.
Yes.
And that created a lot of problems because there were some code sections in the NFPA that local jurisdictions did not want to enforce.
NFPA sets
1710,
standards.
1720, some of those. And so they have changed the way they do business and now reference only the applicable code to the chapter that they're discussing.
Okay, good, good. I didn't want us to get caught up in that caveat.
Looked very specifically to see if some of those codes were in there, and they have
Right.
changed the way they do business.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions? Any other comments? Any public comments?
No comments.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance 214.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane? Aye. Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Walty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 214, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, amending Chapter 11.03 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code prohibiting personal fireworks.
Thank you. Moving on to business item 18, resolution, adoption of resolution number 2021-45, authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Zeke Foster, MD, to serve as the medical director for the city's fire department.
We are moving along at a great clip here
I
tonight.
am working hard.
Chief, 2 more to go.
Take a break.
No breaks. Push through.
Okay, again, this resolution is to establish agreement with a medical director. As a fire department is created, the fire department is going to be providing emergency medical services. Typically, those are what we call ALS or BLS. ALS being advanced life support, BLS being basic life support. Those people who provide those services are either emergency medical technicians or paramedics. Those individuals are regulated and accredited here locally in the county by REMSA, which is the Riverside County Emergency Medical Services Agency. As part of creating this fire department and being able to provide emergency medical services, we have to be recognized by REMSA as an ALS or an EMS provider. So, part of those requirements are to have access to a medical director. A medical director is not a full-time employee. It's a contractor that we use to help us, A, set up our EMS program as part of our new fire department, to help us administer our EMS program on a day-to-day basis, to help us create our policies and procedures on how we're going to perform, to help us build our application to REMSA so that we can be recognized as an EMS provider, to use this person's license so that we can purchase the medications and materials that we need to administer care out in the public. So the EMS director, the medical director, is a key component for us to have on board, and it will allow us to move forward and finish our application to REMSA to be an EMS provider. I was able to be referred to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Zeke Foster. Zeke Foster is an emergency room physician since 2008. He's worked at several hospitals in the Inland Empire. In 2012, he started working at Inland Valley Hospital in Wilmar, which is a level 2 trauma center. Dr. Foster currently provides medical direction for the Moreno Valley Paramedic Program and was a medical director for the Idlewild Fire Protection District. Currently, Dr. Foster is the medical director for both the Murrieta Fire Department, and he just recently became the medical director for Riverside County Cal Fire Department. I've been in contact and communication with him, and he has graciously offered his skills and his expertise to be our medical director. The cost for this has been identified in our city's budget, and it is part of the fire department's budget, but essentially we'll be paying him a retainer for $400 a month to provide these services for our fire department. We're a small department, we're not going to have a whole lot of paramedics, and he's been very gracious in doing this. A lot of the work that he'll provide for us, he'll be providing for these other agencies. So if we and when we work with these other agencies on emergency incidences, our medical direction will be from the same person, and so our continuity of care will continue to be there. The contract, the initial term is for 2 years and 4 months, and I hope that we'll be able to continue to extend that and to use Dr. Foster as our medical director in the future. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
I did look him up and did some independent research beyond the CV that was provided, and all the reviews seem to indicate that he's very professional and competent, so I'm satisfied with this.
Yeah, as part of the package for anybody that wants to review it, his CV is in there, and it's a very impressive CV.
It is. Any other comments? Questions? Public comments?
No comments.
Okay. Hearing none of those. Motion and second to approve the resolution, adoption of resolution 2021-45.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2021-45.
Thank you. Fire department startup update.
Is that me? I'm sorry.
You got it all.
Okay, so December 31st. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. 4 months remaining. We've got a lot to do, but I think it's also important to look at what we've accomplished. So I've been on board since February 1st, and I think we hit the ground running. And within 2 weeks and 3 days, we ordered 2 fire engines. Very quickly after that, we established a budget, we established salaries, we established benefit schedules. We created job descriptions and jobs announcements for all the different positions in the fire department. We have, this last 2 weeks, actually a little bit longer than that, when we started in July, but the recruitment process has been incredible. I'm actually a little surprised at how much time there has been involved in the recruitment process. If you ever start a fire department again, my recommendation is not to do it on January 1st. Because if you back everything up, in addition to being a holiday weekend, to do the recruitment right now, we are in the middle of fire season. And several of the individuals that have applied are either deployed on fires or covering for people who are deployed on fire. And we have made amazing accommodations to facilitate the testing. What had been envisioned of 1 day of testing for really the 3 major positions has created 5 days of testing and bending over backwards and testing for one individual, even accommodating a person that was COVID positive during the process. And we've been able to accommodate that person. So we have gone out of our way to make sure that we give these people an opportunity, because it's not their fault that it's fire season right now. So the recruitment process has been incredible. I hope that tomorrow will be the last day of the written test. Next month, I already have scheduled the reserve firefighter test, the firefighter paramedic test, and I say test, I should say oral interview and skills assessment, and the battalion chief testing. And I'm waiting for the results for the written test to schedule the last 2 tests for engineer and firefighter, but all of those testing will be completed in September. And then we will start into the conditional offer of employments and the background process and all that entails to move into the next phase of recruitment. So it's been an incredible process in recruitment. We have in place an agreement for dispatch. We have started ordering and receiving our equipment. We've received a grant for $29,000 from Firehouse Subs. And we continue to work with our stakeholders on the agreements that are so critical to the formation of the fire department. We have some tonight. We have some new ordinances tonight. We have an agreement with Dr. Foster, and we continue to hammer out those other agreements. And at each council meeting, I expect that we will be bringing more and more of them to you. What did we do tonight? This was a long meeting. We approved funding for over $109,000 in emergency equipment. That was a consent item that some people might not even know about. That equipment includes equipment that we can use for structural firefighting, wildland firefighting, vehicle firefighting. It includes equipment for swiftwater rescue, vehicle extrication, traffic accidents, hazardous materials responses, and remote rescues like the one that the city experienced over the weekend where the ATV crashed into the lake, the North Lake. So we'll have equipment so that we can respond appropriately to those. Does that mean when I say respond appropriately that we'll be able to do it by ourselves? No, but our personnel will be trained and equipped to be that first response engine out there to identify the problem, see what resources are needed, and start requesting those resources. Something we did tonight was we identified a retirement program for our new fire department. And again, another time-consuming process that worked behind the scenes was we have entered into an agreement for our workers' compensation, for our fire insurance, for our vehicle insurance, for our medical insurances, and for all of those other insurances that are associated with bringing on not only the personnel, the equipment, but the facilities that we're going to be in. We've updated our municipal code. So all those identified areas that previously represented a regional fire agency will now represent a city fire department. We're running 4 to 5 months behind schedule on our expected delivery of our command vehicle. When we ordered the command vehicles in April, I thought, wow, this is really early. You know, we're doing this way ahead of time. And I think I even made a comment to the city council, we're doing this because we don't want to worry about it when we get busy. Well, if you didn't hear, there was some kind of a chip fire in China that has delayed delivery of not just vehicles, but a lot of other items out there. So our projected date for the delivery of the 2 command vehicles is November, December. All of the accessory equipment has already been ordered. So when the vehicles get here, they'll get equipped as quickly as possible and we'll be ready to go. We have a backup plan, so if we don't get them here in time, the city has an SUV, a Yukon that's Code 3 capable, and the command officer can use that vehicle and rotate off so that we can respond if we get into a situation. I made contact with the other vendors for our fire apparatus, and the Type 1 structural fire engine is on track. They give us an expected inspection date in Wisconsin of November 17th. So then they'll bring it out here, and then we have 6 weeks to equip it and train with it. Still tight, but we knew it was going to be tight. The Type 6 is the same time period, the middle of November. So again, it's tight, but we get it, and we bring it out. If something happens, if there's a delay, we have Engine 60. The city owns Engine 60 and all the equipment on Engine 60. So our backup plan, if there's a problem with getting our new Type 1 engine into service, is we start out with Engine 60 that's running calls every single day. If there's a problem with the Type 6, it's really not a critical piece of equipment for us to start services on January 1. And so we'll get that ready to go as quick as possible. Our fire prevention program, as Councilmember Green talked about, I've been working closely with Riverside County CAL FIRE in our transition plan for all things fire prevention. So if someone is building a house and they start building a new house, and as we learned tonight, a new house means that you have to have residential fire sprinklers in it. That means you have to submit plans. That means you have to pay fees. That means you have to have inspections. Well, that takes time over the course of the home being built. And so there could be, and probably will be, some homes that will transition from CAL FIRE to Canyon Lake Fire on January 3rd when we take over our fire prevention activities. CAL FIRE, if the person has already submitted fees, they pay basically on a cost basis, so the hour for hour. And so a person deposits so much money into it, they basically charge off that account, and when they close out the account on January 3rd, if there's any funds left, they will refund those funds. If there needs to be more funds paid for us, they'll have to either resubmit that money back to us so that we can continue on with the plan check and the inspection process. Beginning January 3rd, the city will take over CAL FIRE and finish off plans. We talked about that. We will also take over from our own code enforcement department and do our own fire inspections on our commercial properties. Code enforcement will continue to do the vacation rental inspections, but we will be doing the fire inspections. And I will be, as you heard tonight, be giving a presentation on that process on the 9th of September for the Chamber of Commerce. The Type 1 engine, so I kind of talked about that. It's actually not even starting to be built yet. They've ordered all the equipment, and the production date of when they're going to start fabricating the fire engine is September 9th. So all this time, we've been waiting in line on all those other agencies that have been purchasing fire equipments. So again, they've already had that time to purchase the equipment to build the engine. So they tell me that all the equipment they need to put all the pieces together in the puzzle are there, and they don't anticipate any delays on that November 17th date. The same is true with the Type 6. The vehicle is at the manufacturer. They anticipate them start building that because that one's built off a Dodge 5500 chassis, so they don't have to build the chassis. The vehicle's there, parts are being ordered, and they expect everything to start construction in mid-September and then a delivery of mid-November. I think I talked about the command vehicles and our backup plan, so we've covered that. Some of the equipment that we've ordered thus far, the Jaws of Life. And so we have what's called a spreader, a cutter, and a ram bar for auto extrication or for any kind of extrication from industrial equipment. They gave us a heads up that that equipment may be delayed. So we ordered it early to try to ensure that we get it here on time. We've ordered our paramedic monitors, and thank goodness to AMR, we were able to take advantage of economy of scale and buy off of their bid. And so what to the retail public would have been a $60,000 item, we got for under $30,000. So again, AMR was gracious with that. We've ordered our 4 breathing apparatus that we got from the grant, and then we ordered 2 additional ones for the command vehicles. In addition to that, when those bottles get empty, you have to fill them. So we've ordered our compressor. These are big ticket items. The compressor itself is $49,000 for that compressor. We've ordered our portable radios, our mobile data computers, our radio pagers, and most of our medical equipment. So all of those items have been ordered, and we're awaiting delivery for those things. So when we talked about the equipment today, I tried to make it clear in the staff report that this isn't everything. There was stuff already ordered, there's stuff being ordered with this, and there will still be more items to be ordered in the future. I've talked about the recruitment, but overall we had 85 applicants for the 5 different positions. We have our test scheduled for the firefighter paramedics on September 23rd, our reserve firefighters on September 22nd. The other interviews will be in the last week of September. The panel will include 3 fire service professionals from other agencies here in the county or adjoining counties. Once the interviews are complete, then we'll put the candidates into background. That includes a live scan, a background questionnaire, the employment review, criminal driving record review, medical exam, conditional offer of employment. And it's important that we identify who we want to try to hire, because one of the things that we've been notified of shortages and delays on is in personal protective equipment. And so we have to find out who we're hiring so we can get that equipment ordered and get those personnel sized, because it's taking 3 to 4 months in some cases to get that personal protective equipment. So that's why we're trying to move through that as quickly as possible. You might have heard we had a patch competition some time ago. And so at the conclusion of that patch competition, and working with a art company in Lake Elsinore, we have created our fire department patch. So what you see up there is what we've come to a conclusion on. That's our fire department patch and our paramedic rocker that will be underneath it. So we're pretty impressed with it. I hope you like it. We tried to take the city seal and bring out the strengths of the city seal, the icon of the lighthouse here in the community, and make that reflective of what your personnel will be wearing each and every day as they put on their uniform.
That's great.
And along with that came some other artwork that was provided to us. And so we were created with, before I get there, there's actually a picture on the right of what it will look like when it's embroidered.
Cool.
So you can see that the embroidery, obviously the artwork never quite looks like the embroidery, but it's pretty close to what the artwork looks like. So that's what the embroidery will look like. We also were able, as part of that process, is we created a logo for the fire department. And so we have our ribbon on the top and the bottom of our Maltese cross. That's still showing the lighthouse there in the center of our logo. And that's kind of the traditional fire department emblem of being a Maltese cross. And they provided that for us in full color, in a black and white and a red color. And then for like letterhead or something along that line, they created another logo for us as part of our working with them. So we have our logo, we have our identity, we have our equipment, we're getting our people, the pieces are coming together. The city manager says I'm getting grayer by the day, but it is now work time. And so it is full days, every day, Fridays, some weekends, and so there's a lot to be done, but I am confident of where we are at, and we are moving in the right direction. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any council questions? Comments?
I just, I have to say, this is a large task, and you've done a remarkable job to date. I posed the question to the city manager, what is our contingency plan January 1 if we can't open? And we have none. What that means is we are opening January 1. So I'm here, we're all here supporting, be exciting times. And I know that with the delays in equipment, turnouts, safety gear, PPEs, it's going to be tough to meet all those requirements, get everybody trained, but hopefully those will all come together. We'll have enough time to get everybody on board and get our fire department up and running. So looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you again for meeting with me yesterday and answering questions I had. I think everything looks very professional in terms of the logo and the patch, and I'm also impressed with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Councilmember Dane or Welty? Anything?
No, it's just exciting to see it move ahead.
Okay. Any?
It's very exciting. I know it's so much work, but getting excited to see it come to fruition.
Any public comment cards? No comments. Okay. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. City manager comments.
Just one this evening. As you know, we have a special meeting scheduled for Monday, the 13th of September at 5 o'clock here. The topic of discussion is cannabis. We are planning a fairly robust communications program on that to let people know that we're going to be talking about it and to encourage people who have an interest in that topic to come out. In fact, I think that starts tonight in the Canyon Lake Insider. We'll run in the Friday Flyer for the next 2 Fridays, and we'll be on the city's social media and website. I know the mayor and the mayor pro tem have filmed a video that we'll be pushing out, and so hopefully the community will get the message, and anyone who's interested in chiming in on that topic or hearing what we're talking about can come. We have consultants coming in. We have our polling, the polling firm that did the poll over a year ago now is coming to talk about the methodology and the results of that survey. We have HDL will be here. Our city attorney is prepared to present some draft ordinance language. The sheriff's department will be here to give their perspective, so it should be a really good discussion on the topic. I do think the city clerk has a little announcement related to an upcoming election.
Yes, thank you. I'm over here sharing my flyer with the city manager, hoping he would mention it. So the recall election is on Tuesday, September 14th. Our in-person voting is going to be upstairs here at City Hall. It starts on Saturday, September 11th from 9 to 5. It goes Sunday, September 12th and Monday, September 13th, also 9 to 5. And then election day will be all day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So in-person voting. We do have a ballot box located at City Hall. So anybody who has a ballot does not wish to drop it in the mail, they can bring it directly to City Hall and leave it in the drop box, and the county picks those up directly. So any questions, anybody can reach us at City Hall, or you can call my office directly, and that's all I have.
And that is a ballot box, not the regular drop box.
Correct. The ballot box is the box that we receive from the County of Riverside, from the registrar's office. It's secure. It has a lock on it. You put your ballot in there. It goes from the county's office. Your ballot goes in the box, and the box goes directly to the county registrar's office. So it's the most secure way, other than voting in person, I would say.
And where's the voting in person going to be?
So it's going to be upstairs in the space formerly occupied by the library. And again, it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then all day election day.
Thank you.
Okay, we will have signs those days leading into the to the space.
Okay, anything, were you? Okay, council comments, try to keep these to 3 minutes each because we are doing better on time than we thought. Councilmember Dane.
Mine will be much faster than 3 minutes, I promise. Been a long meeting, but I think we got a lot accomplished, which is good. In the past couple months since my first meeting, I've attended a few events. I really appreciated being able to work with the EVMWD and do the orientation and tour some of the facilities. It was very, very interesting, and I learned a lot. And there's been a couple other events that I've been to and or participated in, the Veterans Rec and the National Night Out, and also the library ribbon cutting. And our new library is awesome. That's all.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Green.
Well, mine's going to be less than 1 second. My committees did not meet at all. We were dark for August. RCA will meet on the 13th. And we are in the process of determining whether it's going to be in person, as it used to be, or we're going to go virtual. So that's still in the air.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. We were dark as well. Do have a report to give in regards to real estate. This comes from Adam, Government Affairs Director for Southwest Riverside County. He's taking over for Gene Wunderlich and doing a phenomenal job. I want to give Canyon Lakes a little update on our property values. Right now, the median price is $647,500, which is phenomenal. This is an increase of 36.3% in July 2020. Median price for the county is $475,000. We had the largest increase year over year for Southwest Riverside County as a whole. So once again, Canyon Lake continues to crush it. We saw 32 closed sales for the total of $22 million in Canyon Lake. Real estate is doing phenomenal in our beautiful city. That completes my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Welty?
Thank you. It's interesting that we have the housing element today. The state is encouraging us to find affordable housing for our community. I will tell you we're on the journey, but it's very difficult. It seems like the state on the one hand wants us to do affordable housing, and on the other hand, every time you have to go to an agency to look for some level of approval, it just becomes more and more expensive. And I just want to, we're going to work ahead, but it's quite the journey. I think that's what's exciting about having a local building department is that the efficiency of the building department and their understanding that we're a unique community that we don't necessarily fit in every code or every box is important. And I'm hoping that our building department, as it grows, will understand our community, will make sure the buildings are built safely in the code. But I'm hoping that they'll work with the community to be able to expedite things through and get it approved. And I really want to encourage them, and I'll talk to them when they come on board, about working with the POA to make sure that they're on the same page and not sending the community off in opposing directions to achieve their goal. So anyway, we got some great news because we're going to have a fire department, we're going to have a new building department. So thanks to the staff. I know that you've been working your tails off to accomplish for the community. And I just want to say I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you so much. For my comments, I would like to wish Councilmember Dane a happy birthday month on behalf of City Council and City staff. We are going to have our first Veterans Day Committee meeting on September 20th at 5 p.m. If you are not on the committee, please email the city clerk to get your name added to the mailing list, the email mailing list. We would love help. Last year's event was awesome, and I'm hopeful that this year will be even better as we honor our veterans. The next city council meeting will be the special meeting mentioned by the city manager, scheduled for Monday, September 13th, 2021 at 5 p.m. for open session. That is in this council chamber. And I would like to adjourn tonight in remembrance and thanks to our fallen military in Afghanistan, and that will be at 9:44.
We were all way off. Awesome.
I know,
very
but you were
awesome.
like over and under odds, and I.